What's going on? What's going on, film fam? Welcome to another episode of Let the Film Speak. Let the Film Speak. I am one of your hosts, Chop. Here with my main man, Willie Jack. Willie Jack, how you living, bro? How you feeling today?
Hey, feeling good, feeling great, man. I don't know about the rest of y'all. I can't talk about what the rest of y'all did, but I can tell you right now, for Still a Nation, baby. Oh, we held it down, and we did the damn thing, man. I have yet to be so excited to go into even a preseason just to see all the guys that we picked up, man. So I'm more excited now than I've been in a while, man. Especially heading to post draft. I don't know if I've been as excited as a Steelers fan for sure.
Hey, man, and I'm gonna say this, Willie Jack. I gotta give it to y'all, man. Y'all first few picks, man. Those are picks that I truly like, man. And I feel like y'all was moving in the right direction. You know what I'm saying? Not the sexiest picks. It's not the picks everybody like, ooh, and about. But those picks were picks that y'all for sure needed. You know what I mean? So, all right, y'all go with that. Y'all go with that. Yeah. But moving in today, man. Like I said, welcome everybody to Let the Film Speak. Of course, you know we got a good show for y'all today. We're gonna be recapping the draft. You know, we're gonna talk about some teams that we felt like did a good job. You know, after the draft. You know, some winners and losers, so to speak. Now, let's get this straight before we jump into this later on. You know what I'm saying? We can't predict who actually wins their draft and who loses the draft. We don't know what these players are going to turn out to be. You know what I mean? We don't know any of the information, but based off of me and Willie Jack's, you know what I mean, analytics and our research and, you know, watching film and stuff like that, we're going to talk to y'all about what we feel like, who we feel like were winners or going to come out winners from this draft and who we felt like are going to come out, you know, not necessarily on the losing side, but, you know, they're not so good side. You know what I mean? But before we jump into all of that, of course, we got house rules, man. First and foremost, same as always. Let's like, let's share, and let's subscribe. You know what I mean? Become the newest member of the film fam. You know what I mean? We appreciate each and every one of you, man. We said it. We'll keep saying it. We'll say it each and every week. We appreciate each and every one of you for checking us out, for tuning in. You know what I'm saying? For joining your boys. Talk to us. We talk back. We love the interaction between each and every one of y'all, man. And also, don't forget, hit that notification bell. How else are you going to find out what me and Willie Jack got going on? And I guarantee you, we will not let you down. All right? Couple of announcements, man. Couple of announcements. We are now entering the post-draft season. All right. I don't know about for you, Willie Jack, man, but this is where it gets a little fun for us, man. This is where me and Willie Jack can be creative. We can come up with all different types of topics, whether it's rankings, whether it's scenarios, hypotheticals. You know what I'm saying? We can be creative. We can come up out of nowhere with all different types of things we can talk about. And this is where, you know, the show can be a little bit more interesting for y'all, the film fam. You know what I mean? I know y'all got ideas out there, man. Feel free to throw them out there. We may talk about your idea, you know, so on the next show. But this is fun for us, man. We can be creative. It's not just focused on the draft. It's not just focused on the end season, the games. You know what I'm saying? We can have a little fun with this. You know what I'm saying? So we're getting ready to enter that season. Of course, we got to recap the draft first, but you know that's the season that we entering, man. So just letting y'all know, you know, topics gonna be all over the place. You know what I'm saying? When we really get or dive deep into this season that's coming up next. All right, Willie Jack, man. It looks like we got a couple people in here, man. You want to call them out, shout them out, man. Who we got in here?
Man, hey, ain't nobody in the chat, man. Y'all know I cannot tell who's in here, man. You got to say what's up, man. Hey, when you come in, hey, we appreciate you showing up. You already know what's going on, man. You know we appreciate the love. But man, come in and announce yourself, big dog. You know what I'm saying? Drop your name in the chat, drop your team in the chat, say what's up, what's happening, and man, I'll be sure to shout you out, man. But yeah, nobody in the chat just yet, man.
Gotcha. All right, man. Well, let's jump into the news, Willie Jack. And the first bit of news we got today, man. Jordan Love, man. Jordan Love. Of course, we do know he is taking over as the new starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers after the departure of Aaron Rodgers. And the news we got for this is instead of picking up the fifth-year option, which they declined to pick up the fifth-year option for Jordan Love, they decide to go ahead and get him a contract, man, and that will take him through 2024. Okay, now this contract is a little bit less than what he would have gotten if they would have gave him that fifth-year option. You know what I'm saying? In which the contract ended up being, let me see, 20. It could be a total of 22.5 million, but it's 13.5 million guaranteed. So for me, this move makes a lot of sense, right? This is a player who hasn't had a chance to prove himself. He hasn't been on the field long enough for them to say he's good or he's not good or whatever the case may be. So instead of getting him that 5th-year option and guaranteeing him that the 20 million, let's go ahead and just let's do a contract, a 1 year contract, and let's see how he plays. Let's see how he performs, and then that way we can decide on from there. Do we go give him that long term contract? Do we feel like he's going to be the guy for us, or do we feel like we may want to start looking? We want to start looking into the draft, in the future years, and start looking into another guy that can come in and be our quarterback. Willie Jack, what's your thoughts on this one?
I mean, at first, and especially at face value, it's like, man, why would you agree to take less money? Would be the first thing. If you just look at just the numbers on the top. So like 13 guaranteed, max value of 22 and a half versus the 5th-year option, which I think guaranteed him somewhere right around 20. But I guess the difference being that 5th-year option doesn't come with a signing bonus, man. And we gotta remember, this is a guy that's been in the league for 4 years, sitting behind A Ryan. He ain't really seen no money yet. And
well, hold on. This will be just only his 3rd year. This will only be his 3rd year coming up.
Oh,
yeah. So this will be his 3rd year. He's 20. He came in.
I thought he was eligible for a 5th-year option because they chose to go with the extension for a year as opposed to the 5th-year option. So that's
he's still on his rookie deal for this 3rd year.
Yeah.
But that 4th year is going to be the contract. Okay, does that make sense?
No, it still don't make no sense because they still wouldn't need to do the 5th-year option for 2 more seasons. So that's why I'm confused. I guess that I thought this had to have been his 5th-year option year because you can't be the 5th-year option isn't a thing going into your 3rd year. It's not a thing yet.
So there's no, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Willie Jack. So there's no, is there a rule on how early you can decline that 5th-year option? Do you have to wait until the 3rd or 4th?
Absolutely. So the 5th-year option, maybe it's been a 3-year player. Maybe when the article you read, whatever, maybe it's like he's been in the league 3 years, but he's got to be going into his 4th year because it triggers the 5th-year option. Because the 5th-year option has a league mandated accept or decline date. It just passed. So like it is a very structured like protocol. So like they can't, you know what I mean? Like it has to be eligible because they declined it in favor of this contract. Something's going on there, but while we figure that out, I don't want to talk as if because then at that point, at that point he's stuck. Like he doesn't have any leverage at all. If that's the case, because if he's a 3rd-year player, you know what I'm saying? Like it takes away. He's just stuck. Got to play this year for 1.6 or 2.2, whatever it was going to be. But anywho, at face value, it sounds like he took less money. But that's why I say the difference being that.
Okay, well, you were right. This is he's going into his 4th year now. You're right.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I was about to say, yeah. I'm like, it's got to be if that 5th-year option.
My bad. I was looking at another one, and it didn't show his 1st-year stats, but that was Rodgers' MVP year. So yeah, he didn't take a snap.
No, for sure. And so yeah. So anyway, 5th-year option doesn't come with signing bonus, whereas this 13 mil guaranteed. And I don't know the details to that contract. So I don't know honestly if like how much of that they gave him at signing, but I can tell you a guy that has played he got time in 2 games this past season. He's probably had a dozen snaps before this season, somewhere like that. So just like my dog Chop was saying, hasn't really done a lot. Of course, sitting behind one of the GOATs, man, A Ryan. For everything else that's going on with A Ryan, man, we got to call it like it is, man. He's one of the GOATs for sure. But so hadn't really done a lot. But in my mind, also, he still has leverage because after the whole circus show that was the Aaron Rodgers trade that finally did, go through and pay off, I do think the Packers won that draft as far as the trade compensation and everything like that. But they're essentially, at this point, what are their options for starting quarterback for a team and an organization that isn't interested at all in, living in the dumps for 2 years? This is a blue blood, it's a day one NFL old school organization. They're looking to stay in the realm of respectable at a minimum, you know what I mean? And then, of course, they always have their sights on, trying to compete, especially for a division, which honestly, man, I mean, it's been competitive, but I don't necessarily think it's been super strong, you know what I mean, as far as real deal Super Bowl contendership. Even with the Vikings last year looking at them, I don't know who really had faith in them going to the bowl. So anyway, my point being that he concedes guaranteed money, but now he gets, I would imagine he had to at least get 5, 6, 7, 8 million, maybe guaranteed at signing. So he gets a big influx or big chunk of cash here. And then, like I said, then there still is the possibility that, and we don't know what incentives or escalators are in the deal, but he can still get up there to the money that was probably on the line for that 5th-year option with that contract having a max value of $22.5.
That signing bonus is 13.5. That's the guaranteed.
Okay, so that's but that,
Yeah,
I know that was guaranteed. But I know so that's that. That's what he gets at signing as well. Man, you know these
yep.
guarantees, man. I done learned more
Yeah,
about
it's
guarantees.
all weird. It's all weird.
Yeah.
And then he could potentially get 22 and a half.
Okay. Oh yeah. So now, if I'm gonna get 13.5 when I sign the line tomorrow, I'm taking my 13.5 now because the 5th year option is a fully guaranteed contract, but it's game by game. So every game check is guaranteed, and then I think there's still like an injury caveat that most of these things will have. But the money comes in each week you play, and so yeah, at the end of the season it's more. But I want my 13.5 right now, especially if I had done that. I wonder how many passes attempts he has in his career in actual games. I don't know if he's had 50 passes as an NFL quarterback. So give me 13.5 million for maybe I've thrown 50, 60
I'll
passes.
tell you, he threw 83. He's thrown
80,
83.
83 passes. I wonder what the math is. One of y'all got to be smart. What's the math on 83 passes over $13.5 million? What's that?
Hey,
You
I
know
don't
what
know
I'm
the
saying?
math on that, Willie Jack, but that's got to be at
You know
least
what I'm
like
saying? Yeah. It's
maybe 100,000 a pass.
man, more than that. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's what I'm getting at, man. Whereas that's why I think it makes sense. You know what I mean? And so he's losing money just if you go 13.5 to 22 or whatever that was. Okay, it looks like he lost a little money, but now he got that 13.5 today or somewhere thereabouts. And so I think it makes sense. And then still he's in prime position to continue on and be re-signed as the quarterback for one of the, like I said, oldest and most respected franchises in the league. So I
Willie
like
Jack,
this for both sides.
Willie Jack, bro, they can call me right now and give me 50,000 a pass. Give me 10 grand a pass. I'm good with it. You know what I'm saying? Give me 10 grand a pass.
Perfect, man. They could have gave you $100 a pass. You'd have been on the first flight to Green Bay.
Bro, the first one, you know what I'm saying? Southwest. You know what I'm saying? That's why I got the
Hey,
numbers with.
Southwest ain't going to Green Bay, are they?
I don't know. One of them is I catch an Uber or something. I get there. Don't even worry about that. But give me 10 grand a pass and watch
Yeah,
your boy suit up. You know what I'm saying? Get in the
for
best shape
sure.
of his life. Ain't that what they say in the beginning of the season? Oh, he's in the best shape of his
Oh,
life.
man, exactly, man. Dude, 37, man. It's the best shape he's ever been in.
Hey, they gonna say that about Chop, boy. I'm telling you. In other news, man, a trade that happened on Saturday, man, during the draft. On Saturday, former Lions running back DeAndre Swift was traded to the Eagles, man. In this trade, the Lions received a 7th round pick of this draft, of course, and a 2025, not 2024, 2025 4th round pick, man. After drafting Gibbs with the 12th overall pick, you had a feeling Swift might be on his way out, and that's what happened, man. They end up getting rid of Swift. During Swift's 3 years with the Lions, he has yet to play a full season. You know what I'm saying? So I would imagine that played a huge factor in it, especially because of how dynamic he was. When he was on the field, he made plays, but if you can't be on the field, like they say, the best ability is availability. If you can't be on the field, then you don't really help your team. You know what I'm saying? But when on the field, though, he's a playmaker. You know, in 3 years, 25 touchdowns, even with all the games he missed, over 2,800 yards. And then for the Eagles, this makes a lot of sense for them with Miles Sanders' departure, to the Panthers, and them bringing over Rashad Penny as well. This kind of puts him in a similar role. It puts DeAndre Swift in a role where he's not used as much as probably the Lions wanted to use him. I think the Eagles bring DeAndre Swift over knowing that, all right, you're not getting the bulk of the carries. You just coming in to switch up the pace. You know what I'm saying? To be that dynamic guy, man. So that's what I think they brought DeAndre Swift over. Overall, I like the trade for the Eagles. And I started to like it a little bit more for the Lions as well. Willie Jack, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. Like I said, the writing's on the wall. When you draft Jamar Gibbs at number 12 overall, I mean, like I said, his time is done. I'm very surprised just by the Lions kind of offseason as a whole, I guess, especially coming off this draft. I'm sure we'll get into it, but I was very surprised to see Jamal Williams be let go. Like I said, he just seemed to be like the emotional heartbeat of the team. You know what I mean? So I would have thought that he was even more so than his ability on the field, because his ability on the field maybe isn't maybe top tier, whatnot. Now that's despite production. You know what I mean? Now he's got to paint a lot, but even still, so. But deeper than that, like I said, like I would have thought, like I said, man, he was like the emotional heartbeat of that team for a while. So I was very surprised to see him leave, and now he's the same. And so in doing that, my first thing was like, oh man, they must be going all in on Swift. You know what I mean? Because if you watch, Hard Knock, if you see them talking behind the scenes about Swift and the running back coach Deuce. Was it Deuce
Deuce
Staley?
Staley, yep. Deuce Staley, former Steelers, baby.
And so in those conversations, man, that we saw on Hard Knocks with him and Swift, in the conversations he was having with coaches, he's raving about this guy as a dynamic. I mean, I don't want to say all-time talent, but as a guy that could be a real difference maker in his league. So it seemed like he was pretty high on him as a position coach, the team, etc. So this is a drastic shift from that. Now, honestly, if I'm a Lions fan and I get my choice of DeAndre Swift or Jahmyr Gibbs, I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs for sure. But still, just the move itself was just surprising. Gets to the Eagles for little to nothing. And so for the Eagles, man, Howie Roseman, the best, the top GM award in the league, something like that. 2 more years of this Howie, and that's going to be the Howie Roseman best GM of the league award. They might as well stamp that because he's doing the damn thing, man. So buy low. He bought low with a high rate of return. You know what I mean? Because it didn't cost him nothing to get it. Now the 2025 4th round pick, which could be of value. You know what I'm saying? It really did. And I wonder, is that conditional or is that 4th round pick in 2025 locked in?
It looks like it's locked in. I didn't see anything that's conditional with it. It looks like it's locked in. And it's a 2025 pick.
But it's a 2025 pick, so it's 2 years away. And so, like I said, man, I mean, it's and even still, I like it, man. I like what you can get back from it. I still think talent for talent, skill for skill. I think DeAndre Swift is an upgrade over Kenneth Gainwell. And mind you, I wasn't super high on Swift coming out of Georgia because he was small. Well, he was shifty, but I wasn't as high on him. I think Chop was higher on Gainwell than I was as well when he came out of, I want to say, Memphis. And so I think he made your 5, and I think he missed my 5. He was like in my top 8 somewhere in there. But I would think Swift is an upgrade there. And then, like I said, they already had they brought over Rashad Penny as well. So they've got a lot of hungry backs in that room, and they got a lot of hungry backs in that room looking to prove themselves. And so, which means they're going to get the best out of all of them. You know what I mean? So all those guys going to be in the room, all of them nipping and fighting. Competitively, you know what I mean, pushing each other, bringing the best out of each other. So I like it, man, especially if you get Rashad Penny healthy, has been a top 6 back in the league. Like his last 10 healthy games, he's been phenomenal. You know what I mean? Like phenomenal, but the ergo healthy. Same thing can be, well, maybe not the same thing to that extent with DeAndre Swift, but if these guys play a season together, I mean, right there, you got Rashad Penny that can get in there and bang with any big boy on the field, and he's got some juice, man. He can hit you for 40. You know what I mean? And then you come and change the pace with DeAndre Swift, who's electric, dynamic, he's super agile. And so, like I say, you get that thunder lightning going, all while still dealing with the threat that is Jalen Hurts, a $255 million man. Shout out to you, sir. You know what I mean? So I like the move for the Eagles, man. The rich get richer, if you ask me. And honestly, man, I don't think that compensation, a 4th rounder 2 years from now, how is the make the Super Bowl next year, legitimately? You know what I mean? So, a 2025 5th rounder, or 4th rounder, which can have value, but like I said, more times than not, man, your fourth round guy's a special team. More times than not. And so we've got a chance at a guy that can put points in the paint. So I like it for the Eagles a lot. And it makes sense for the Lions because you got to make room for pick number 12, Jahmyr Gibbs.
For sure. Absolutely, Willie Jack. And I agree with a lot of what you said, man. And to all our people that's in the chat right now or that's in here listening to us, man, we apologize. I don't know what's going on, man. But the chat is having some technical difficulties with the chat, having some difficulties with my words as well. But we have some difficulties with that, man. So we'll play around, see if we can get that going for you all. So we apologize for that, man, for anybody that's in here, man, and can't, shoot their messages in and chat with us and talk to us. Because like I said, we love to talk back. All right, Willie Jack, that's the news for today. So without further ado, I think it's about time for us to go ahead and jump into what we need to talk about today, man. Of course, today we recapping the draft. We're going to talk about some quote-unquote winners and losers, as we said at the top of the draft. Of course, it's hard to predict, but this, we taking this as face value. You know what I'm saying? What we saw, what we dissected in the very beginning, man, and we're gonna jump into this, man. So, Willie Jack, you want to start us off, man? What do you want to start us off with? You want to start us with a loser? You want to start us with a winner? How you feel about this, man? What you want to do?
I'll start with the winner, man. I'm more of a glass half full guy myself, anyway. You know what I mean? So I'll start with a winner, and then honestly, man, just kind of piggybacking off of the greatness that is Howie Roseman, man. I'll start with the Eagles. The Eagles for me were a tremendous winner in this draft, man. For me personally, they got the very best player in the draft at pick number 9, and then they got a top 10 player in the draft. If you ask me, Nolan Smith on my final big board, Nolan Smith was a top 10 player. He might have been 9 or 10. somewhere in there. They got two top 10 players in this first round of this draft, and they got them at extreme discounts. You know what I mean? You get Jalen Carter at pick, yeah, you trade up one spot to secure him at pick 9. You get Nolan Smith at pick 30. Almost fell out the first round of the draft. So Howie and my mind can do no wrong. Then, of course, you still make the move and you go get DeAndre Swift for, like I said, pennies on the dollar from the Lions. I also really like the value they got on Keely Ringo. Keely Ringo, cornerback from Georgia. Now, I wasn't huge on Keely Ringo because he had, if you polled at the very end of the college football season, he was a top 10 pick. He was probably the number one corner on a lot of people's, like, you know what I'm saying, pre-processed boards, and a guy that was sure to be a number one pick or top half of the number one pick. And so you got a guy with that kind of pedigree, and you get him all the way in the fourth round. Now, I was low on Keely Ringo just myself, but that's in context of him being a potentially first-round guy. I still would have thought his size, his athleticism, and I really think that he's got real viability as a safety. I probably, to this point, I think I would like him better as a safety. But bottom of the second round for a guy who's 6'2" and runs 4'3" and played at Georgia, you know what I mean, played a lot of meaningful championship pedigree snaps at Georgia. So getting him in the fourth round for me was just an absolute steal again. And you know what, man? I thought I had one more of they mid-round picks as well that I really enjoyed, man. But for me, like I said, man, Howie Roseman is giving a clinic on how to knock out the draft. And man, I'll tell you what, if you're man, I wanted to find that last guy. But that's a good start. Like I said, you can't go wrong, man. So Jalen Carter, Nolan Smith in the first round, two of the top 10 players in this draft, and then you come back in the fourth round and get a guy like Keely Ringo. Like I said, man, you cannot lose. Even if he doesn't amount to anything, the buy low for exceptional return still applies to Keely Ringo as well, man. So I really love that move. I'm gonna look for that guy while I toss to you. Oh, you got me?
I'm with you. I'm with you. And just to let everybody know, man, in the comments, man, the chat is now open. So you can now come in and chat, man. I know it's late, but come on in and check in with us, man. Come on in and tap in with us. My bad, Willie Jack. I was trying to get that squared away.
No, you good. I think we good. And matter, no, you good. And I know who else I want to shout out, man. Sidney Brown. I love Sidney Brown, man. That safety out of Illinois. Man, I went through and did a big board. I think he ended up finishing up like in my top 50 players. And so you get Sidney Brown, safety from Illinois. You get him in the third round. And so, like I say, excellent value there as well. So all told, man, I really like what they did here. You know what I mean? So how we still doing the damn thing.
I got you, Willie Jack. And since you started out with them, it don't make no sense for me to go anywhere else. I had them on my list as well as far as, you know, a winner in this draft. And I'm going to stay there with you, man. I'm going to go winner with them as one of my winners as well. For a lot of reasons that you mentioned, I think they may have had the best draft of everyone. Of course, you already talked about Jalen Carter. Now, with that, I feel like they already signed Fletcher Cox to a one-year deal. We already know he's slowing down. He's getting a little bit older. I think Jalen Carter is ready to go now. And I think with Jordan Davis, his injuries, and he had a little bit of struggles last year. I think Fletcher Cox is going to be there to kind of pass that torch over to Jordan Davis so that he can start, you know, catching up to speed, you know, and learning from a guy like Fletcher Cox and eventually take over as that spot right beside Jalen Carter as the other interior tackle. So with that line alone, and then bringing in Nolan Smith, they led the league in sacks last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did it again this year. It's hard to repeat what they did last year, but with all the talent that they have, I would imagine them being up there at least in the top 5 in terms of sacks and pressure on the quarterback, you know, with the way they did it last year. You know what I mean? So I like those moves. They come back at the top of the third with a Tyler Steen, a tackle out of Alabama, who can add depth as for right now, you know what I'm saying, at the tackle position behind those studs that they already have. But those guys don't have too much longer. I know this was something that Willie Jack talked about a long time, was the fact that the guys that they have, the Lane Johnson, you know what I'm saying?
The left tackle is good. He's the young guy, but the right tackle, Lane Johnson, for sure.
Right. So I think they bring him in there to say, okay, look, sit right here. We got some guys that are great right now. All I need you to do is work and work and work. And when it's time, when your time comes, maybe it's next year, maybe it's the year after that, we ready to go and we're going to pick up where we left off. You know, so what I like about Howie Roseman is they're not just trying to win now. We know they're trying to win now, but they're making moves and they making draft picks to where once some of their guys that's holding the ship together leave, like I said, a Fletcher Cox and a Lane Johnson and even a Kelsey. Once these guys decide to move on, they got guys that can jump in right away, and it's like nothing ever changed. You know what I mean? If these guys pan out, of course, and if they work like we are imagining that they can. Of course, I talk to you. I like Keely Ringo a little bit more than you, Willie Jack. I think he's arguably a top 5 to 7 corner in this particular draft. They get him in the 4th round. I think that's a good value for that pick. And then to top everything off, we know they got a lot of picks. To top everything off, to land DeAndre Swift in that trade without having to lose any of some of your more important pieces, I think was a great move for the Eagles, and I think it adds a little bit more um, flair and excitement to that particular offense by bringing him over. So I'm with you on that, Willie Jack. The Eagles were one of my winners as well, man. So I'm going Eagles with one of those. And speaking of that, I'm just gonna go ahead and run into my second winner of this particular draft, man. And I'm gonna go ahead and go with the Houston Texans. All right. Now, with the Houston Texans, I like what they did. Now, of course, a big part of this is how do these players pan out? So, in the 1st round, we know with their 2nd overall pick, they went C.J. Stroud. Okay, we know what he brings to the table with the talent. Great arm. You got the arm talent, pedigree. You watch the film. He has a lot of the quality that you look for. You know what I'm saying? And a guy that you can build around. If he pans out, we know how huge a quarterback can be to the total puzzle of a team. Then they come back, trade up again. Now they give up a lot, but I don't mind it as much. And I'll tell you why, because for them, they get another guy that they could potentially build their defense around. Now, neither me or you felt like he was the top guy. But if we wrong, Willie Jack, if we wrong and he is the top guy, if he is the guy that everybody sees, and if he becomes that true, legit pass rusher that can make a huge impact on the defense, I mean on the field, for his defense, we all know how much defensive, how much edge guys get paid. You know what I'm saying? We know how valuable they can be to taking over a game. We watch, even though the Broncos had a great defense, we watched Von Miller take over the Super Bowl by himself against the Carolina Panthers a few years ago. You know what I'm saying? So if they can land both of those picks alone, that goes a long way in turning this Houston Texans team around, and helping them become, what I'm saying, a team that is respectable and a team that can really legit compete. Now, it's going to take more than this, of course, over the years and more building. But I think if these two guys pan out, that's a start. Let alone adding a guy like Tank Dell later into the rounds, wide receiver out of Houston. Now, he didn't quite make my top 5, what I'm saying, for various reasons. But let alone he's a shifty, witty slot receiver, man, that has his way of creating separation, getting open. I think he can easily come in a room that doesn't have many receivers or receivers at all and be a guy that starts to build that relationship with a CJ Stroud. You know what I'm saying? To be this number one target, to be a guy that, all right, I can get you 7 catches a game, so on and so forth, and be a number one guy. And maybe they come along down the road and get a true outside number one receiver, a game changer, you know what I'm saying, as their time goes. You know what I'm saying? Because we know how those can come along in the draft. You know what I'm saying? Has a knack for getting open. And with those picks, man, along with some of the other picks they had in this draft, I feel like the Houston Texans are moving in the right direction. And even if some of these don't pan out, they made the right choices. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy for D'Amico Ryans. I think D'Amico Ryans has a fresh start. I think he can turn his defense into something that can be pretty good, especially with some of the picks they had last year. And I like what they did with this Houston Texans draft.
Man, I hate to do this to you, man. But
Come on with it.
before I explain to you why the Texans were on my loser list, let me first, man, now that the chat's up and running, man, let me give some shout out to some of them members, man. Day One Gang Jarrell is in the building, man. He wants all y'all to know what's the word. Let the field speak fairly, man. Tap in with your dogs for sure. He said he came in and called it. He did catch us talking about his Eagles, man. So perfect timing there. We also have, man, one of them members, man. Big Chef is in the building, man. Hey, Appreciate the dog, man. Come back in, holler, man. The fam bam in the building, man. Miles is in the building. Appreciate you, of course. So yeah, wanted to give y'all some shout outs real quick, man. Now, since you brought up the Texans I put on my loser list, and loser does feel strong. It's not so much. Loser feels a little strong, but I hated that Will Anderson trade. And it's more than the player because I didn't see him as that style of player. But the trade they gave up, it was a quarterback trade for a guy who I don't see, and this is just me, of course. But you traded quarterback value. Like those are the type of trade. Like the Patty Mahomes trade was probably similar to what they gave up to go get Will Anderson. Will Anderson is not going to impact a team like Patty Mahomes. Or you know what I'm saying? So, but if you're going to make that style of trade and you're not going to get a quarterback, you've got to be going to get Von Miller. You've got to be going to get Myles Garrett. You've got to be going to get Nick Bosa. You know what I mean? And the player count that I've made for Will Anderson throughout this whole process has been Melvin Ingram. You don't give up a first next year. You don't give up, 4 picks, including a first next year, which is going to be a top 5 pick next year. That's just not what you give up for Melvin Ingram. As great a player as Melvin Ingram is, he's a Pro Bowler. He's a very competent player. He's been productive everywhere he's went. He's never changed the temperature in any room he's walked into, though. You know what I'm saying? Or what I should say is he brings a lot of energy and he brings his own juice. But what I'm saying is he's not Vine. He's not Myles Garrett. He's not Nick Bosa. He's not up next level. And that's the type of price they paid for him. And so the player, especially with a team like the Texans and like I said, DeMeco Ryans, I see the thought pattern. But in my mind, instead of trading with Arizona at 3, trade with Detroit at 6. Detroit, who we know was also looking to move back because they moved back. They ended up moving back and trading with Arizona, who Houston traded with at 3. But trade with Detroit at 6, and I think you still get that same player. You know what I mean? Because a quarterback is likely going to go in that spot. And so, like I said, I just think they overpaid for it. They overpaid for it, man, because I don't know what he can do to pay for a top 5 pick next year. I just don't know. I don't know how many sacks pay you for that. And for a team that, like I said, picking in the top 5 means you're not going to win a lot of games. And so it just felt like the price they paid was heavy, regardless of my own personal thoughts about the player. But then honestly, man, I did like Tank Dell. He's a small, quick, shifty guy from Houston. Had terrific production numbers when I looked into him in the pre-draft. Wasn't as fast, didn't run as timed as fast as was expected. Because like I said, he's one of those guys, kind of like we said with Jordan Addison, where you're 5'10", 180 pounds or less, you damn near better run 4.3. It's like Hollywood Brown. You know what I mean? Hollywood Brown runs 4.3 at these guys' size, and that gets him in the first round of his draft when he came out, regardless of what he's done since then. But like I said, so you've got to, you know what I mean, like to be, when you're that small, you definitely generally need some style of elite trait, general speed. He didn't time that fast, but boy gets open. Boys couldn't stick him. So I do like him as a player. Honestly, man, I like Xavier Hutchinson, the receiver out of Iowa State that they got in round 6. Now, I think he could be considered. He has potential to be considered a steal. I think he's got a very decent game. I don't think he'll be a number 1, but he's a big body guy that could definitely line up outside, and I think he may start to get starter steps sooner rather than later. But for me, I went ahead and had to put the Texans on my I guess loser side. And like I said, man, not just the player, but just the value they paid, man. A projected top 5 pick next year. That's just steep. We're not talking quarterbacks.
I respect it. I like the way that I feel like if those 2 guys do pan out, though, you talking about something that can last a long time for this Houston Texans team. You know what I'm saying? Definitely huge risk for sure, but that's where we at. You guys,
Big Chef in the building, man. He agrees, man. He said Texas. He's giving them 4 or 5 wins tops next year. He also doesn't think it was a great draft. Or basically, I think he said the same thing. It's a huge risk, and that's the thing, man. For a team that's the type of move that Howie and the Eagles could have made because they right on the doorstep. Man, we can sell the farm and go get it. But man, I don't know, man. Texas, man, y'all got this little process, man. Y'all gave up a lot. But yeah, no. But I see what you was going with that too. Like I said, if both those guys hit, man, and those are cornerstones going forward, then that's still a win. But man, hey, man, top 5, boy, that's rough.
I got you. Well, come on back with another winner for me, then.
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah. Man, and you know what? And I kind of surprised myself on this one. But the more and more I like when I looked at it, the more and more I thought about it, and
Look at that. Yeah, I bet you picked my team. Go ahead.
I don't know if I did, man. I don't think I did. I'm gonna say a winner for me, the Cleveland Browns, man. When I went back and you weren't ready for that. You weren't ready for that. Yeah. When I went back and really kind of looked at these classes, man, I like what Cleveland did. And this is a team that didn't have a pick in the first 2 rounds. So that's why it's even more impressive, if you ask me, because I love Cedric Tillman. Cedric Tillman out of Tennessee is an X receiver. You know what I'm saying? You get him in the 3rd round. And so you've got Amari Cooper, who's supremely talented. He tends to run a little cold in the big moments, but still the rest of that receiver room, Donovan Peoples-Jones and X guy we can insert. Cedric Tillman shows up on this team and he starts sooner than later, and I think he's a good complement on the outside. He's a big body, I'm going to get the ball regardless of who's guarding me type of guy. You know what I mean? And so, and I'm not saying he's this player because he's not this player at all, but Deshaun Watson made his name running around for 5 seconds in the backfield and throwing 50-50 balls to DeAndre Hopkins. Hop somewhere down there, like we heard Kyler say. Hop down there somewhere. Cedric Tillman's type of guy that can go up and get it. You know what I mean? Big physical guy. And before getting injured this year, and then he made his injury this year, actually made room for Jalen Hyatt to hit the scene and really take off and make a name for himself. But anyway, so I really like that pick there. I think he's a starter. I think he's a starter. Siaki Ika, the nose tackle from Baylor.
Out of Baylor, yeah.
Yeah, he's a guy that they need mass in the middle. This is a team that they got Myles Garrett on that D line. He's been looking for a partner for somebody else in that D line for about 2-3 years now. Jadeveon Clowney wasn't it. They went to the draft well the last few years. They got a guy, Jordan Elliott, I think, out of Mizzou. I hate to call you out Mizzou, but man, they got you in the 3rd round. He really hasn't shown himself, and so they're looking for somebody that just help eat up a guard to keep a guard off of Myles Garrett, man, and give him more opportunity with the tackle. Just somebody to clog the space. And also, like I said, man, definitely be a help to that run game. That run defense has been really solid in the middle. So he comes in and solves that problem. Probably the biggest steal in the draft for me, or a top 3 biggest steal in the draft for me. DeJuan Jones in the 4th round.
Yeah, boy. That's a big boy.
DeJuan Jones, for me, was a top 5 tackle in this class. And not just me, but just speaking for myself. Was a top 5 tackle in this class. And honestly, in my top 5 rankings, I rated him higher than I did Broderick Jones for the player that he is today. Because I thought his pass pro, he's a cleaner. His pass pro is cleaner than Broderick Jones. And I think he's not as athletic, or he's a great running defender as well with his power, but now it's a different style. He's not going to get out in space and go hunt boys up like Broderick Jones is with that athleticism. But this was a 1st round caliber guy. Like this was, for me, his range started somewhere the 20 to 40. You know what I mean? So bottom of the 1st, top of the 2nd type of guy, and you get him all the way down to the 4th. And so now there has been things that came out. I guess teams teams were starting to question his work ethic, and especially when you have a guy that big, 6'8", 374. That's what he weighed at the combine. And then guys were saying that post combine, he had already gained some weight. He had put on as many as 20 pounds. Some reports are saying, I know with the Steelers, we were super high on him, probably one of the highest teams, and we completely cut bait and bail. Canceled his private top 30 visit. He didn't want to do anything in the private workout we had. And so he really soured on a lot of teams. And so I'm imagining, that had to be it. That explains his fall, that teams maybe didn't like the player once they met him versus the film. But all that, it all sounds good until we line up. And when we line up, he's going to be starting at right tackle for the Browns, and he's going to be a problem. You know what I mean? And so in my mind, man, you get a very, very good player there in the 4th round, which is still crazy to me.
If you like pancakes, and if you got some syrup, man, that's what you will watch. That's all I'm gonna tell you. If you like pancakes and you got some syrup at the crib, you know what I'm saying?
Man,
something to put it up. DeJuan Jones, there you go.
I'm trying to tell you, man. And then especially, like I said, man, the team with Nick Chubb, man, like I said, one of me and Chop's longtime favorite backs in this league, man. So that those type of things can only bode well, man. And so I love that pick. And then I'm not gonna lie, man, a little bit of a hometown kid, but Isaiah McGuire, the edge from Missouri, big body defensive end. I really liked him. And honestly, I didn't look too deep into him. When I was looking at Broderick Jones, I watched the Mizzou game. Isaiah McGuire had that. Isaiah McGuire gave Broderick Jones everything he wanted when they played Mizzou this past year. And so here's a guy he's got really he's bigger than I imagine. He's like 6'4", 270. He's a very big power defensive end. And like I said, they're still trying to find a guy to complement Myles Garrett on the other side. I like that pick. Last one I'm going to shout out because I like all these picks. DTR, Dorian Thompson Robinson, the quarterback from UCLA. I think that's the perfect spot for him to back up. Is backing up a guy like Deshaun Watson, whose skills and talents that his mimic. And so I love that pick. And you get him in the fifth. Yeah, in the fifth round. Then last but not least, Luke Weichler, the center from Ohio State, falls all the way to the sixth round. This was a guy that was getting talked. Second round might have been a little early, but he was a consensus, about mid-bottom second, but definitely a round three guy and a guy that's looked at as being a starter in the league, man, probably here in these next 2-3 years, or a guy that's looked at that's going to start sooner rather than later. You get him in the sixth, and then I guess looking more into that as well, there maybe was some red flags that came up on his medical history, or things like that that kind of make him fall. But there's this between taking a fall and taking a tumble. He tumbled. And getting him in the sixth is just incredible value. So when I look at all this head to tail, seeing the talent they brought in, and then telling myself, like, they didn't have a first or a second round pick. Thank God they didn't have a first or second round pick. Whoever was making the pick to Cleveland knew what they was doing. And so I think Cleveland, man, very, very low key under the radar, had themselves a day, man. I don't think it could have gotten better if you don't have a round one and round two, and this is the haul you came away with. I count 1, 2, 3, 4. I count 4 starters, and Isaiah McGuire, he's gonna get some real burn at that other end across from Myles Garrett. Well, Luke Whitewood might not start at center because Jason Trevor's a monster, but he's a guy that if in 2 years he's the starting center, it's not going to surprise me at all. You know what I'm saying? And so I think they've got 4, maybe even 5 guys that are going to get starter snaps on this roster for sure.
And under the radar is the key thing for me, Willie Jack, because I'm feeling like the Cleveland Browns aren't getting they're not in any news. They're not talked about as the top team or anything like that. But it's also a team that can very well jump into that conversation easily if Deshaun Watson ends up being the quarterback that we saw before going on a suspension and everything that he went up against and all those different things. You know what I'm saying? He definitely can become a good player, and if he becomes a good player and adds some firepower to that passing offense, as well as allowing Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt to continue to do their thing in the backfield and running that ball, then you're talking about a dangerous team, man. You're talking about a dangerous team. They add another piece to the offensive line, man. So this team could very well be dangerous. And I wouldn't be surprised if they come out shocking teams and saying, hey, we ain't no pushover. We ain't no walkover. You're not going to walk over us. We're going to be very competitive this year and really push for a playoff spot, and possibly even push, to compete, at the top of this division. So I'm anxious to see what this team is really going to look like now that Deshaun Watson has a full year under his belt. He's going to be with his team throughout the entire offseason, get all practices in and all those different things, and see what this turns out to be. And hopefully, put everything behind him, so that he can get going with this. All right, man. Willie Jack, to balance this thing out, man, I'm going to go a loser, man. I'm going to go a loser, just off the strength that, you came back with the Houston Texans as your loser team.
Yeah, the timing of it hit.
I get it. No, I had planned on doing it anyway. I was gonna make it happen because you came that way. But hey, that's just the way of the show, man. We're gonna make it happen like that. So, my first loser, I'm gonna stick with my team, man. I'm gonna talk about the Rams. Okay, the Rams are a loser for me, and it really has not too much to do with all the picks that they made, but more so that the situation that they put themselves in. The Rams are now in a position where they need just about every position in the book. Matthew Stafford, the entire year last year, was dealing with elbow issues. You know what I'm saying? They had running back issues with Cam Akers, whether or not he was for the team, if he was really wanted to play, all these different things. The offensive line couldn't block anybody. You know what I'm saying? The defense was solid, but then they got banged up. And then you also lose a Jalen Ramsey. You know what I'm saying? You lose, you give away for some Skittles, Allen Robinson. You know what I'm saying? This is a team that's in total turmoil right now. And in the midst of everything else, they gave away a lot of their assets to possibly bring back some guys that can help build this team. This team is legit right now, as we speak, 2 to 3 years away from having a real opportunity of becoming a legit contender or a legit option for a possible playoff team. You know what I'm saying? Which is it's gonna be rough for me for the next couple years, but that's a real possibility for me right now because that's just the position they put themselves in. Didn't have a pick into the second round. Now, I do like the guard that they got. We did address their offensive line position, and I like that. This is a guy that didn't give up a lot of sacks, and that's one thing that we needed was some protection. So ever since losing Andrew Whitworth, our offensive line was lost. They didn't know what to do. So going to get him, I really like that. The another one I kind of like was in the later rounds. They went. I forgot it was the fifth. I think it was the fifth. They went and got Stetson Bennett out of Georgia. Now, the
Fourth.
thing for me, it was the fourth. Okay.
Yeah.
Now the thing for me with this is, I felt like I did come into the draft and nobody was talking about the Rams being a potential team to go after a quarterback. I felt like we were definitely we should definitely be one of those teams that could potentially get a QB. You know what I'm saying? And then watching Will Levis drop, and then also Hendon Hooker still being out there, I would have rather try to get Hendon Hooker later in the draft. You know what I'm saying? Matthew Stafford, to me, doesn't have too much longer. He came, he did what he's supposed to do. We got us a Super Bowl. I don't know how much longer he has left. But having a guy that I think had more upside than anybody else left in this draft that dropped, to what, the fourth round? Did Hendon Hooker go in the fourth? To a guy that dropped as low as he did.
I think no. I ain't lie. I think he went the third to the Lions. So he
okay. I'm gonna round off on everything.
Yeah.
But he, with him dropping as low as he did, and to the point where we had an opportunity to get him, I felt like that was the guy that I wanted us to go after. I think he could have been a great option for us to kind of let him sit right behind Matthew Stafford and him possibly be the guy we bring in to, to build around in our future. Like I said, it's gonna take us a couple years, but this loser was more so about us and the position that we put ourselves in to, yes, win the Super Bowl a couple years ago, but now we paying for it. You know what I mean? With all the people that we had to give up for cheap and, all the things that's going on, as of right now. So that's my first loser in out of my picks. What's your thoughts on that one, Willie?
I get what you're saying. I'm not gonna lie, man. I like y'all had tons of picks, just none of them were in the first. Just none in the first round. But I agree. I'm looking at your picks now. So I like Steve Avila for sure. Interior offensive lineman for TCU has starts at guard and center, and so that offensive line, man, has been terrible. And I think me and you talking just I don't know if we were on the show or not, but just talking. I think the O line was probably the biggest need for y'all in my mind, man. That O line was terrible. So Steve Avila goes a long way to putting to improving there. He's gonna start the gate for sure. I would assume guard, but in a pinch, like I said, a guy that he started 2 years ago, he was the starting center for TCU before he moved to guard this last year, and then went at the top of the second. So definitely like that pick. I'm not gonna lie, man. I'm looking at y'all picks. I like y'all first four picks. I like Steve Allen from TCU, like I just talked about. I like Byron Young, the outside linebacker, edge rusher for Tennessee. Now, whether or not it was a tad early, but what is this? The third round, like I said, third round towards the bottom of the third round, I believe as well. I mean, that's not terrible. I don't mind that at all. Kobe Turner was a guy who definitely flew under the radar.
That was one I really liked. I really like Kobe Turner.
That's what I was gonna say. I really like that pick.
Old school traditional D tackle. He's not going to rush as well. He's not going to rush the passer as well. But you ain't moving him off the ball. I'll tell you that. That's for sure.
See, I thought he had a little juice. See, I thought he had a little juice. He's not Aaron Donald, you know what I mean? But I thought he had a little juice.
I think he's the perfect complement to Aaron Donald because he's the guy that can eat up one or two blockers and still hold his ground and free up guys around him to make tackles in the run game, which was an area that I feel like we could have improved on anyway. Well, that's what I've seen. And you got your own,
No, not for sure. Yeah, not for sure. But we both like the pick. I like the pick.
I like that one.
Yep. And honestly, I like the Stetson Bennett pick for you guys. You know what I mean? Because like I said, it's middle of the fourth round. I wasn't super high on him, but this is a very weak quarterback class. Right. So I think after Levis, Hendon Hooker, then maybe the next two guys for me are going to be DTR and Stetson Bennett. You know what I mean? So I think he's a guy, and he's an older guy. Normally, when you think older, you think maturity, but then at the same
You watch
time,
him
he got
play.
arrested for the Senior Bowl. You know what I mean? Instead of going to the Senior Bowl, he turned it down. Then he got arrested for like a DUI or something. He got arrested for something. So maybe that's not all it's cracked up to be. His age lending to maturity, but at the same time, man, the guy's played a lot of snaps, a lot of championship caliber snaps, championship pedigree snaps, and that type of experience, honestly, it lends its own style of. I mean, it's an asset. It's just an asset having played in high pressure moments and delivered on the biggest of stages. You know what I'm saying? So I still think that's an asset. Let me see. There was one more guy here. Oh, Trey Tomlinson, man, LaDainian Thompson's nephew from TCU, the corner from TCU. Y'all got him in the bottom of the 6th round. Man, that's a damn shame. This is a guy like and he was crazy. I was on TikTok when I think I made my video a while ago for Devon Witherspoon, and a guy, I don't know if that guy ever came home, man. If you out there, if you watch it, man, holla at me. I don't know if you ever came home, but he got a TikTok message. He's like, hey man, you gotta check out this kid Trey Tomlinson. And so I hadn't got to him yet at the time, but I see what he's saying, man. Small dude, super feisty, super aggressive, but his size does show up, man. I mean, he just can't deal with big guys on the outside. So he's gonna be a guy that you have to, he's more so kind of forced to play inside. But if he's 2 inches taller, he goes around 2. If he's 2 inches taller, he goes around 2. But see, because he's only 5'8", so 5'10" doesn't even make him a tall corner. He's a small corner at 5'10", yeah. But at 5'10", and let's say naturally that gets him another 7 pounds. Let's say he's a second-round corner all day.
5'10" can compete. 5'10" can compete.
No, for sure. You know what I'm saying? And so I really liked him, especially like I said, man, I was surprised to see that he fell all the way to the 6th. You know what I mean? That felt excessive. Yeah, I mean the rest of those guys, the running back Zach Evans, he was a high recruit that never really popped or never really lived up to like his high school. He was a 5-star guy coming out of high school, went to TCU, didn't work out there, transferred to Ole Miss. But so I mean, you take a late round flyer on him, you get him in the bottom of the 6th as well. So it's like a buy low, maybe return high type of player. But Trey Tomlinson for sure, I like Kobe Turner and Steve Adler were my 3 favorite picks for y'all.
For sure. All right, Willie Jack, what you got for me, man? You gonna go lose or winner for me?
I'm trying to see. I was trying to balance this out to see where. So I think if you're at 2 winners and 1 loser, I'm at now we're even. So I'll go another loser. So it'd be 2 and 2 for me, winners and losers.
Okay.
So yeah, I'll go with another loser. Let's see here, and I'll talk about. You know what, man? This is I'm gonna say them for last. I'll say them for last. I'm gonna talk about. And we actually kind of mentioned them earlier. I'm gonna talk about the Green Bay Packers.
Green Bay Packers. It was close for me, man.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I was not impressed with their draft haul, man. Like, I wasn't super high on Lucas Van Ness. He wasn't in my top 5 rushers. And honestly, on my big board, I think I had him right around, like, he was somewhere between, I don't think I had a first round, like, grade on him. Like, I think he was somewhere around, like, pick 35 or so for me personally, which is top of the 2nd. So he goes middle of the 1st at pick 13. And the talk is, he's got to be playing with his hand in the dirt. I don't see him as a stand-up outside rusher, but he's got the size profile that Green Bay likes on that. Because Rashawn Gary was a guy, he's a 6'4", 275-pound outside linebacker. Preston Smith, the guy they brought in, another one of those guys, he's 6'4" or so, 265, 280 pounds. So Lucas Van Ness is a guy, he's 6'5", 272. He's got great straight line speed, but when you actually turn on the film, man, he's stiff, he's straight line, he doesn't bend. And so I'm thinking, like, man, I don't see how they expect him to bend an edge. So I was like, okay, well, maybe they're going to play him with his, play him in that 3 front, which he has the strength and power to do. He actually played tackle, for a time at Iowa before he just transitioned to edge. But I just didn't like that pick. And also, I think there was just better options on the board. The tight end they got in the next round, they got Luke Musgrave. I like Luke Musgrave as a prospect. Yeah. He made both our top 5s. I just didn't like the value. Like, I just think there were better picks on the board. They come back and get Tucker Kraft in the 3rd round, and Tucker Kraft was a guy, he made my honorable mention. I think I was probably a little higher on him than you were. Small school guy to South Dakota State. He played a little bully ball down there. Like I said, man, being an NFL caliber player at that level. But in my mind, the positions make sense. They added to that front 7. They got 2 tight ends for a team that didn't have any, and then they got a receiver in the middle of the second round, and Jaden Reed from Michigan State. And I just there was the positions made sense. There was just better value. If you're going to get 2 tight ends in this draft, and now this is hindsight and this is off the radar, but in my mocks, in some of my mocks, I did this. If they were really going to get 2 tight ends, you know who they could have had? They could have got Dalton Kincaid at 13, and I don't think that's a bad pick. I had Dalton Kincaid going 16 to Washington.
Dalton Kincaid is one of the best guys in this draft for sure.
He was in my top on my big board. He was a top 10 player. He was player 10. I think he was 10 and Nolan Smith was 9 on my personal big board. He's a top 10 player in this draft. So 13 not too high at all, if you ask me. Dalton Kincaid could have been pick number 1, and then when they circled back for Luke Musgrave, or even when they circled back for Tucker Kraft, that could have been Darnell Washington. And I really loved Darnell Washington to that team because of what he does in the run game. And this is a team that wants to run the ball. They've got a 2-headed monster. They've got Aaron Jones and AJ.
Now that I think would have been a great balance, with those two. And
that's what I'm saying. So they balance each other out. And so having Darnell Washington, let's him still play on the edge. You still got Dalton Kincaid. This is a team that still just needs receiver weapons. Dalton Kincaid is just starting slot receiver. You know what I'm saying? He's named tight end. He starts a slot, and you can run that offense to him. Like they had tons of picks, and I just didn't like the value of hardly any of them. Jaden Reed, receiver from Michigan State. He's fast. He's a returner. It was way overvalued by me. I don't know if you got that deep in the woods and seen some of his film. Not that he can't play, but right there at pick number 50, man, there were definitely better guys on the board if you ask me. And then I'm looking. I like the Carl Brooks pick in the 6th round just for its value. He was a 300-pound edge player at Bowling Green, so smaller level school. So he's definitely going to be a guy that transitions and needs to play in their 3 front. But you get him in the 6th round. I think that's still good value for what he produced to put on tape. My favorite pick of these, when I'm looking at him now, is Anthony Johnson, 7th round DB from Iowa State. He was a corner, transition to safety, and the transition to safety suited him well. Because he's a different style of player. I was going to say the way Devin McCourty transitioned from corner to safety. Now, he did it when he got to the league. When Bill got him, so look, ain't no corner. Back up to 15 yards, and he could be a monster. And he did that and had a Hall of very good style of career. So this is a guy, they make the transition for him to safety this last year. He's got really good size. He's like 6 foot, 6'1", right around 205, 210 pounds. And he thumps now. And this is a guy that transition from corner to safety and fit right in. You know what I'm saying? He'll put some wood on some boys. So I really like him. I think guys had him there. He was a late round riser. And so he was a guy that was getting talked at as maybe slipping into that 2nd round, but probably definitely in the 3rd to get him in the 7th. And so I like that pick. But all told, man, I just wasn't happy with that Packers draft, man. If I'm a Packers fan, I feel a little let down.
Yeah, and I'm kind of with you on that, Willie Jack. Like I said, they were close to making my list. They didn't quite make it because I did like a few of their picks, like you mentioned some of them. And I feel like they didn't put themselves in that terrible of a position after this draft. You know what I'm saying? I did like the Luke Musgrave pick, and so on and so forth. So,
yeah, well, no, it's not necessarily the name,
it's the position.
But
it's where they
drafted
it.
Yeah, like when they got him, who was available at the time you got him, you know what I'm saying? So like that type of account. But like, no, I think Luke Musgrave has the potential now to be a seam monster for sure. He can get out and run. And he can get out and run with anybody, man. 6'6", 250. They ain't making them like that.
All right. Well, since you got your 2 losers, man, I'm gonna do my loser really quick. One of my other losers, man, I went with the New England Patriots, man. The New England Patriots was a loser for me in this particular draft, and the reason being, first and foremost, it's not. This is another one that's not about the possibility of having some decent players, but it's about what you got. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about a New England Patriots team whose strength is their defense. They had the 26th ranked offense this past year. You know what I'm saying? And usually they kind of balances out in a weird way because regardless of how low their offense is in terms of the Patriots, their run game is usually pretty good. No, not this past year. They were below. They were ranked in the 20s in their run game as well. So this offense was bad all the way around. And their first 5 picks went cornerback, edge, linebacker, center, and then kicker. You know what I mean? Not addressing any of the major needs that they had in the early rounds. There's a lot of talented guys that were still out there. Now, don't get me wrong. me and you both had, our things about Christian Gonzalez. We both feel like Christian Gonzalez could potentially be a guy that is a really, really good corners league. Has a lot of all the tools that you need or want to see in a corner. He has those. Athletic ability, size, um, footwork, ball skills, transition, like everything that you need to see in a cornerback. He has it. Just the lack of physicality, sometimes the want to. That's the one part of him and his game, that people could question. But after that, regardless of the names, you needed offense. You know what I mean? This is a team that had their two best weapons last year were two tight ends. One was Hunter Henry and one was Jonnu Smith. You know what I'm saying? Their number one receiver last year was Jacoby Myers, and he's gone. They bring in Juju Smith-Schuster, who it was Juju Smith-Schuster didn't wasn't even close to cracking 1,000 yards last year. He's now your number one receiver. We see him as a number one. You know what I'm saying? So you obviously need a weapon on the outside, you know what I'm saying, to help out this team. Now, also, one of those tight ends are gone now, and you bring up a Mike Gesicki. Now, Mike Gesicki is talented, but it's still two tight ends in which you need some help on the offensive side of the ball with Mac Jones. You can definitely use some help in the backfield with a running back. So to me, I feel like the picks from the Patriots could have been a lot better. There was a lot of talent out there on the offensive side of the ball that they had opportunities to get. They passed on it for whatever reason, and they end up attacking a lot of defense and a little bit of special team with the first 5 picks of the drafts. I didn't like it. I feel like they take a huge step back in a division that includes the Buffalo Bills, who drafted Dalton Kincaid with their first pick in the first round. And we both know how electrifying and game changing that move can be for the Bills, already having Stephon Diggs and Gabriel Davis on the outside of receiver, by adding a Dalton Kincaid, a very talented tight end, to that team, could really push that team to another level. And when these offenses are cooking, it's not too much that other teams can do. So hey, I don't. The Patriots are a loser in this draft for me.
Yeah, and the Patriots were close to making my call as well. They really could have made my call, but honestly, I went with the instead. But I won't lie, I like that Gonzalez pick. I think for the value, Gonzalez to me was another guy. I think Gonzalez was a top 10 player for me on my big board as well. And so, and not only did you still, and also I had New England mocked taking Gonzalez at pick 14 before they trade back with my Steelers. So that for me, I was really like that pick. And the thing about the Patriots is, I don't know. I get what you're saying as far as the offense, but we got to remember this year's draft wasn't super. It wasn't the strength of this draft wasn't in the skill positions offensively. There was one blue chip offensive guy in this draft, and he was Bijan Robinson, a running back. You know what I'm saying? I think he's the only true deal blue chip player on offense in this draft. Now,
you don't think Dalton Kincaid was one?
who?
You don't think Dalton Kincaid was one?
Well, you know what? Well, see, don't.
I know.
That's tough. Well, no, you know what? If I had to say blue chip, then no. Because in my mind, there was only 3 blue chip guys in this draft. Jalen Carter, Bijan Robinson, and then, no, probably don't too. I'm not going to give Bryce Young blue chips. I really don't know what he's going to be in the pros. I'm not talking about, going forward. And so, like, I'm talking, like, when I say that, I'm talking, like, guys that, you know what? That's interesting. Dalton Kincaid is an interesting argument there, but they just brought over Mike Gesicki. You know what I mean? As you just said as well. So they were already. It would have been a real luxury pick for a team that need a player to come in and fill a real hole. I think that defense had real holes, especially in the secondary. That's why I like Christian Gonzalez to them, and the fact that they got to trade down from 14 to 17 with my Steelers, and then still get the second best corner in this draft. If you ask me, he was number 1 on a lot of guys' boards. And so you trade down, pick up a pick, and still get him. I like that. I really like Keion White. Keion White, the edge player from Georgia Tech, their second-round pick. I liked him. And once I got to him in my film, he made my big board. I think my big board end up going to 60, roughly 2 rounds worth of players. He was right around like 50 to 55 for me. Somewhere around 50 to 55, if I'm remembering right. I liked this film. I did. He's like 6'5", he's like 285, one of those big power base ends. So I think he fits he fits the Patriot defense because that's what they go for. They go for those real big kind of tweener, athletic tweener type of guys. So I like that pick. But then, like I said, outside of those first two picks, I didn't like hardly any of the rest of that. First off, they drafted a kicker in the 4th round. Yeah. So they would have had the Eagles draft a kicker in the 4th round because I don't see how you get that value back. There's still tons of talented players in this draft at that point. And like you said, at that point in the 4th round, maybe you do go get some weapons on the outside. You know what I mean? Maybe you do go get an offensive weapon, a receiver. I don't know if they want to add to that receiver because they let go of Damian Harris. They still got Ramondre Stevenson. But Ramondre Stevenson still doesn't stop me from drafting somebody else who could be dynamic, but there still. You know what I'm saying? So I don't mind that the way the board fell. I do want to shout out the Patriots, man. They were the only team in the NFL this year to draft a player from an HBCU. They draft the Jackson State's own Isaiah Bolden, cornerback from there. They drafted him in the 7th round, pick 245. He's a height, weight, speed specimen. I don't know if he'll make the actual roster, but he's around 6'1", 6'2". I think he's roughly around somewhere between 190, around 190, 195 pounds like that. Runs 4.3. It runs a low one, I believe. Like a low 4.3 with that type of size. You get him in the 7th round, take a flyer on him and see what you can get there. Antonio Mafi, offensive lineman they got to in the 5th round, plays guard for UCLA. I don't know if you got into him any, but he's a big body bruiser. Honestly, I was a little let down in his film for what I was hearing. When I expected, I shouldn't say that, but that's a decent pick, especially in the 5th round, a big mauler. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of their draft either. So I do understand completely how they made you lose list for sure.
For sure. All right, Willie Jack. I think it's about that time, and you talk to him, man. Let them know where we at. You know what I'm saying? Let them know what they can do, how they can find us. You know what I'm saying? Let them know about the Three Amigos, man. I think it's about time you go ahead and talk to him, Willie Jack.
Oh, man, say no more, say no less, man. Without further ado, man, today's episode of Let the Film Speak, brought to you by the wonderfully handsome and debonair brothers of Let the Film Speak. That's Chop Willie Jack. And also brought to you by the Three Amigos, man. Y'all can say it with me, man. That's like, that's share, that's subscribe, that's 3 the hard way, that's 3-piece spicy. You cannot go wrong. Now, y'all know it's Three Amigos, but it's a 4-part process, big dog. First, you just got to tap in, man. First, just tap in. Come through the crib and say what's up. What's happening? What's going on, man? Still the nation in the building, man. I'm sitting down and make myself comfortable. I'm like, what's up, big dog? Yeah, go ahead and get in every comment, man. That's all you, big dog. Come in and tap in. Just say what's up, man. Like, share, subscribe. Then you got to tell a friend. Then you got to tell your friend to tell a friend. Then you got to tell your friend's friend to bring one more because we need 4, man. Bring them up top to the penthouse and kick it with your dogs, man. All right. Now, I would be remiss if I did not also give a shout out to some of these longtime sponsors holding us down, man. That's Real Deal STL Sports, man. They stay in the building, man. They stay supporting us behind the scenes. Shout out to y'all. No Votes to the podcast, man. That's Brother Red, man. That's our dog, man. That's Day One Gang as well, man.
Yes, sir.
Big Chef, the guy in the building, man. No Balls, No Glory, man. Man, I'm a Stink Prince, man. Say, man, y'all know who you are, man. So always want to give love, man. Where we give love, man. Get love and give it right there, man. So shout out to those sponsors, man. Shout out to the Three Amigos. And without further ado, back to the regular scheduled program.
All right, Willie Jack. While you was doing it, man, I was thinking whether or not I wanted to go winner or loser. I know I got one of each left, but you know what? Let's end this off with a winner, man. So I'm gonna go my loser first, and then you come back with your loser, and then we come back with our winners at the same time. So my last loser of this draft. Speaking of the Packers earlier, I went with the New York Jets, dog. I went with the New York Jets. You know, it's my losers. Okay, now. We know one of their biggest needs coming to this draft was on the offensive line. You know what I'm saying? With all the inconsistencies they had, the injuries and things like that. Can't not keeping Mekhi Becton on the field, you know what I'm saying, due to injuries and things like that. We also knew the defense was pretty solid. But I felt like with this team, the offense, they probably need a little bit on both sides of the ball, but the offense, I think, is what I think they should have solidified a little bit more in this draft, okay? Now, we know they have Garrett Wilson. He showed a lot of promise this past year, you know, at Ohio State. Number one receiver for this team, hands down, I believe. And then Breece Hall, he's coming off an injury now, but we know what he was when he was out there on the field. Breece Hall was a game changer, and he looked to be a legit real deal running back, in this league and a legit offensive weapon for sure. Okay. Outside of that, the Jets really didn't have any other established offensive weapon. They come over, they bring over a non-athletic Alan Lazard. You then, in which, of course, this wasn't in the news, but now you bring over a Randall Cobb who hasn't played a full season since 2015. You know what I'm saying? For me, this move alone, and I'll address just a little bit of this, Willie Jack. Veteran presence isn't that valuable. You know what I'm saying? And for me, this move, both of those moves actually reek of Aaron Rodgers being a spoiled brat, asking for what he wants. This is what he needs.
Man, hold on, man. What does that got to do with the draft grade?
I'm about to tell you. So that's one part of it. You know what I'm saying? And if you can ball, you can ball. Now, let's get back to it. They start off with a solid edge guy in Will McDonald. Now, I'm not mad at that pick. You know what I'm saying? I know Willie Jack was a huge fan of Will McDonald. Was Willie Jack's one of his guys, made his top 5 list, going into this draft. But after that, man, they really didn't do much to add more to this offense. And as of right now, the only legit offensive weapon that Aaron Rodgers has to throw to is Garrett Wilson. Now, we know Elijah Moore is over there too as well, but we don't know what Elijah Moore is. You know what I'm saying? Elijah Moore has been there for a few years and just hadn't seemed to turn over their leaf in order to become, their legit second receiver that we thought he could be. You know what I'm saying? We saw that rookie season. Does Aaron Rodgers unlock that? I think there were a lot of weapons out there for the Jets that they could have attacked. That way, they can go ahead and add that weapon to what they have. You know what I'm saying? To add weapons on the outside. To also protect Aaron Rodgers. We know that was a priority of the Jets. Protect Aaron Rodgers. But then after protecting Aaron Rodgers, it was give Aaron Rodgers a lot of weapons. When Aaron Rodgers was at his best, we saw him with 2 legit receivers he can throw to. 2 options. It was Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb. Now, this is a young Randall Cobb. This ain't 37 or however old Randall Cobb is now. You know what I'm saying? A legit borderline best receiver in the league and Devontae Adams. Garrett Wilson is not Devontae Adams. You know what I'm saying? We don't know what he'll grow to be. Before that, Greg Jennings and Donald Driver. They need weapons on the outside. And the Jets did nothing to go address any of those needs. Not a tight end, not anything to help out this particular offense. You know what I'm saying? So not that this offense is going to be terrible. You know what I'm saying? You paying, Aaron Rodgers a lot of money to come over and be that it factor, to be the difference maker for this team. But in this draft, man, I didn't see them do anything to really address this offense and make them a legit contender. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, they went McDonald early in with their first pick. You know what I'm saying? Then after that, they come back and go Joe Tippmann, in the second round. They go Carter Warren, you know what I'm saying, out of Pittsburgh. And then they go running back after that. To me, these moves weren't the best moves they could have made. I feel like they could have did better in this particular draft. So the Jets, man, a team that's looking to try to win the Super Bowl this year. You don't have many years with Rodgers. You got this year, maybe next year. You don't have many years to go. You try to win a Super Bowl right now, I think they could have did a better job in this draft to try to shoot for that Super Bowl.
I'm not gonna lie, man. We see the Jets offseason way different. I don't understand what you're talking about, get them weapons. They added their weapons in free agency. So you bring over a $45 million receiver in Alan Lazard. You already have Garrett Wilson, the offensive rookie of the year last year. You bring over another free agent receiver in Nicole Hardeman from Kansas City. And so you got 3 starters right there. So I don't think they had to go chase an outside weapon in this draft. You know what I'm saying? And then also, the Randall Cobb thing, it is what it is. Now, there was rumors that Favre wanted him. And like I said, man, so, I mean, that be what it is. But I don't think it necessarily hindered their draft. Now, one thing about this draft, when I looked at this roster, honestly, I didn't think the Jets had a ton of, outside of offensive line. That's the one I'll give you. The O-line, particularly tackle with Mekhi Becton, because it looks like that show was coming to an end, and so they needed a tackle bad. But see, that's where where me and the Steelers and the Patriots come in, because the Patriots let us jump the Jets to draft Broderick Jones. And so I guess settled draft rumor is that the Jets were locked in on Broderick Jones to come in and likely replace Mekhi Becton on that left side since it hadn't panned out for him with injury and otherwise. But we jump ahead of them. We get Broderick Jones. Looked at Wiley as probably the last of the first round caliber left tackle, starting left tackle, which they would have need. And then they rebound and go with the guy like Will McDonald. Will McDonald for me in my final big board, he was top 15. And honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you, I put him. He was right there neck and neck with Will Anderson for me. Not for what he's done, but what he will do. Projection going forward. I think he's going to be a more dynamic pass rusher, and especially in this system, that's going to let him line up in the wide nine. So I didn't mind it there. The Joe Tippmann pick, I wasn't as high on Tippmann. He's a 6'6" center, came from Wisconsin. He's athletic, he can run, he can move. But honestly, I mean, he plays with bad leverage. He goes from trying to snap. He's already 6'6". So I mean, I don't know if realistically he's going to stay at center or if he may just have to go bump out the guard. But there again, like I said, man, the real issue on that offense for me, I think the offense only had one real hole, and that being at tackle, but they miss out on one at the top of the draft. But the rest of these picks, I agree. I'm not blown away by any of them. Carter Warren, the tackle from Pittsburgh. He's a good depth or developmental guy, but I don't think you count on him to play meaningful snaps this year. To your point, you know what I mean. But yeah, I wasn't overly excited, but I don't think they necessarily had a tons of holes on that offense, man, with all the moves they made this offseason.
And the reason I say they have holes, Willie Jack, is Alan Lazard and Randall Cobb were the same receivers Aaron Rodgers just had on his team last year with the Packers. You know what I'm saying? Alan Lazard was well, quote unquote, their number one receiver for a while until, as my dog Tom would say, Baby Moss started to go crazy. You know what I'm saying? So in my mind, yeah, you bring over McCole Hardman as well. That's a number 3 receiver. You know, McCole Hardman is number 3. Alan Zard is a number 3 receiver. The only potential or real legit weapon that you have is the potential in that you see in the who is Gary Wilson. You know what I'm saying? Alan Lazard ain't about,
bruh.
Alan Lazard ain't been about nothing, and he ain't about nothing. You know what I'm saying? McCole Hardman is a fast receiver. He's not a legit route runner. He's not going to, like, they don't bring nothing crazy to the table that Rodgers didn't have last year.
Who in this draft was going to make you throw away $50 million of free agent receiver that you wouldn't got? Regardless of what you say about Alan Lazard, and I think he's going a little hard on Alan Lazard. You know what I'm saying? Because he's been a number 3 guy his whole career. Last year, they didn't choose to make him number 1. They lost Devontae and they lost MVS. And so he just de facto just moved up the chain. But that team as a whole was just a poor performing offense. So like Alan Lazard, if we can say that about Alan Lazard's production or his performance last year, then we can also knock Aaron Rodgers' production and performance last year because it was par as well.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm saying. So like I don't see those holes. Gary Wilson is that team's number 1. So Alan Lazard is definitely the 2, and that's where he should be. He's a big high weight speed guy. But Gary Wilson, they have a number 1 receiver. So, and especially, like I say, in this draft, at 13, the only receiver that would have made sense at 13 would have been Jackson Smith and Jigba. And I don't necessarily, if you want to argue for Jackson Smith and Jigba at 13, or no, excuse me, at 15, I think, yeah, at 15, we traded the 14 to jump down. So if you want to get Jackson Smith and Jigba at 15, yeah, maybe. But then, like I said, though, man, like, when you go out, when they went out and spent $50 million on receivers this offseason, like, and Jackson Smith and Jigba, for what they want to do, they want to be an up-the-field offense. I would imagine with Lazard and Gary Wilson as dynamic as we've seen, so they want to kind of go more up the field. I don't know, man. I don't. The only hole I would say on offense, man, was that offensive line. That's the tackle specifically. I think they definitely didn't address that issue, which is the biggest issue on that offense. But at the same time, the way the draft played out, man, I mean, somebody jumped in front of them and got their guy. And so the rebound with Will McDonald, I think, was a great pick. Tippmann, I mean, they still add a body to that offensive line, but I'm not in love with the pick. But I can't argue for them to go get like a receiver. When you say weapon in this instance, we got to be talking receiver.
But we know there was a lot of tight ends in this draft too. It wasn't just receiver. What I'm saying is, period. I felt like, yeah, they spent $50 million on weapons in the offseason, but I mean, what is that $50 million going to get you realistically? You know what I'm saying? Like, what have we seen from these players that make you feel like, all right, They good there. Those are not holes. I feel like those are still holes. There's always better players
Nah,
up there
I
than
don't think so.
An Alan Lazard. You know what I'm saying? Every receiver. And my Alan Lazard, bruh, he pushing the fourth receiver on a lot of teams in the NFL, man.
That's false, man. That's
I'm
false.
telling you, bro.
That's
I'm
false.
telling you.
He's gonna be because he's 6'4", he's 215 pounds, he runs 4'3", he jumps 40 inches,
Nah,
and
he ain't running
he's
no
got
40.
production though.
That man ain't running
Bro,
fast.
he's had seasons where he averaged damn near 20 yards a catch. Like that is explosive, dynamic production that everybody can't give you, bro. Like
30 catches.
huh?
We're talking about 30 catches.
From last year's Aaron Rodgers last year was just as ass as Alan Lazard was, bro. That's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I'm not talking about their production last year. Because if we talk about just their production last year, then Aaron Rodgers should have been traded for a first rounder for next season in the spot this year. So it's got to be deeper than that. You know what I'm saying? We got to be looking forward on what they're going to do and going to do on this team. You know what I'm saying? With a legitimate running threat and Breece Hall when he's healthy. Now we want to see it for a few moments, but this was a team that was ready to compete. They just didn't have it figured out at the quarterback position. So I don't think this was a team. This wasn't a team starting from the bottom at all. This was a team that was right there in the mix and just and fell apart at the end because they didn't have the guy pulling the trigger at the heart of it. You know what I mean? So Alan Lazard to come in and be the number 2 to Gary Wilson. Alan Lazard is a better receiver than any of the other receivers they had playing with Gary Wilson last year. I'm taking Alan Lazard over Corey Davis, who got overdrafted in the top 10 out of not West Kentucky, wherever he came from. Overdrafted in the top 10, went to the Titans, flamed out, got paid to go to the Jets, and never did anything of note. You know what I mean? Your boy Denzel Mims from Baylor, who never hit at all.
Denzel Wills didn't pan out at all. Denzel Wills didn't pan out. But I'm taking Corey Davis over Alan Lazard any day.
Man, I'm not, because I've seen that. I've seen Corey Davis can't do nothing in what he's done. Alan Lazard can give me a 60-yard touchdown coming from Aaron Rodgers. Alan Lazard threatens 60-yard touchdowns every Sunday that he lines up. He's a threat for a 60-yard touchdown. And as long as you have him as a threat for a 60-yard touchdown,
I'll say
him taking the coverage off the top, he still makes it open and allowable for guys like Breece Hall to eat a little more, for even Garrett Wilson to if one deep shot to Alan Lazard a game keeps the defense honest and really lets Garrett Wilson and Breece Hall cook. You know what I'm saying? Like you need players like that.
I don't want to. So this is my thing, Willie Jack. I don't understand what you see, bro. First off, Alan Lazard.
Those receivers are trash. Corey Davis was Corey, bro. If you tell me you're gonna keep Corey Davis in favor
over Alan Lazard, yeah.
Man, well, that just further cements why my team is gonna smack your team when we both GM.
Corey Davis without Aaron Rodgers has more production than Alan Lazard has had throughout their career. And I ain't looked at the stats yet. Bro, you gonna look it up, and I'm guaranteed you. Here's my other part. Alan Lazard is a product of being forced into a number 2 or number 1 role and getting production because he was forced into that role. That's what the product.
Man, you call it what you want to, man.
And you talk about him taking the top off of defense. This is a 4 or 5 receiver. That boy ain't taking no top off.
Bro, he's not. All right, man. Look, I'm gonna let that go, man. You tripping. There's no offensive holes they should have attacked. The only 2 players on there's no high-level offensive talent in this draft. That's what you keep. Like, who are they gonna go get? Jackson Smith-Njigba was the number 1 receiver, but he's not. He wasn't. He went at what, pick 20? You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was the most people's consensus number 1. Like, you know, I'm not going to get him to, like, he's not what they're trying to do on offense. I don't necessarily think he was the player to go get. You know what I'm saying? And then, like, what the next guy, Jordan Addison? Man, hell no. You know what I'm saying? 5'11", 173 pounds. I like Jordan Addison. He's my number 2 guy. I'm not saying that. But they didn't pass up any surefire, like, obvious guys to go get. Like, they didn't pass up. And I don't want to make too crazy an example like a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase, you know what I'm saying? But, like, they didn't pass up one of those guys and say, nah, we just going to chill with me, Cole Hardman. That ain't what they did. You know what I'm saying? Like, the guys that were actually available in this draft, especially at pick 15, I don't see it that way, man. And especially, I think that defense they definitely needed some help on that D-line with Quentin Williams. Quentin Williams is keeping that defensive line up front. They drafted a guy in Jermaine Johnson out of Florida State who didn't really make a name or make an impact on that D-line. And they've got a couple other just journeyman guys. So they needed some juice on that edge. And if you ask me, Will McDonald is a better prospect going forward as a pro, as a pure pass rusher. a better pure pass rushing prospect than even Will Anderson. And so I'm not mad at that pick. I think this pick looked the way it is because they didn't get the tackle. The tackle was the only hole they had on this, man. Because there's nobody in this draft that's gonna like make me feel differently about what they did in free agency. And that's just not the way teams think anyway. You know what I mean? Like it or not, $45 million says that Allen Lazard is going to play and he's going to be your number 2 receiver, regardless of what you.
He's definitely going to play.
Jordan Addison.
He for sure is going to play. That's not what I'm arguing. I know he's going to play, but he ain't $45 million receiver. I tell you that.
Yeah. Man, look, and Daniel Jones ain't a $40 million a year quarterback.
That's right.
You know what?
Right too.
But both of them getting paid what they're getting paid. Daniel Jones got $40 million this year, and Allen Lazard got 45, man. So
but we talking about performance. I don't care what they're getting paid. I'm gonna tell you what they're gonna do on the field, and that's nothing. And I'm gonna tell you that. That's what we
don't worry, man. Man, timestamp this. Timestamp this right now, man.
Yeah, no, please do. I'm gonna record. I'm gonna pull it for you. I'm gonna pull it for you,
this, man. And that's it. I'm not telling you that.
And I just looked at it, and Corey Davis' production is a lot better than Allen Lazard's.
Corey Davis. Man, it's bigger than rap, man. It's deeper than rap. It's bigger than just those stats for sure. Corey Davis is not a difference maker, bro. There's
Allen Lazard is. Allen
Lazard can be. That's what I'm saying. Like, bro, Corey Davis production caps at he's a C-level player. There's nothing at
Corey
all.
Davis played.
Let me finish. There's nothing at all exceptional that he offers to his game. Allen Lazard, I don't need to go throw Allen Lazard 8. I don't need to throw him 8 hitches a game so that he can produce like Corey Davis. Allen Lazard, to be worth that $45 million, he's gotta give me. I need 160-yard play a game. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're looking for Allen Lazard, bro, because that's how he fits in. Corey, bro, I'm telling you, man, you man,
Corey, man, nah, bro, you tripping. You tripping. Now you got to go back and watch it.
Man. Corey,
like Allen Lazard is a difference maker.
No. What I'm saying is he's not looking. Bro, what I'm saying is the way he fits into that offense. He's not looked at to be the number one. You talk about like the number one. No, Garrett Wilson is the number one. And so how do we improve this cast around Garrett Wilson? It's not with Corey Davis, his average ass. We need somebody that can really keep defensive honest so that we can make things easier for Garrett Wilson. Allen Lazard does that with his threat for 60-yard touchdowns.
Bro, he's not a deep threat. What are you talking about, Willie? That's easy because he catch a deep pass. I mean, he's not a deep threat. He's not getting behind defenses. Nobody's scared of his speed. Nobody's worried about that. Nobody's scared of his jump ball ability. Like, he's not that type of receiver. I don't know what you saw, what you think you seeing. I'm confused, bro. I don't know what you're saying, bro.
Hold on, man.
You got to give me your last loser anyway. You got to give me your last loser.
I got you. Hold on. It's your fault.
I need to lose.
Now this delay is your fault because this delay is your fault right now.
Well, come on with it, Willie Jack. Come on with it, man. It's been a while anyway. Come on, make my day. Make my day. Please do. Jarrell, I heard you in the comments, man. Jarrell in the comments say, and you got to think about the QBs and receivers Lazard was playing with. Lazard has a great QB, and he is a viable number 2 receiver. And see, this is what I'm saying, man. He played a number 2 receiver role, but his skill wise, legitly, he's not a legit 2 receiver. He's a 3, but but that doesn't mean that he's not a number 3. He's a number 3 that's forced into a number 2 role. Is what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying? Like Lazard is a solid number 3. I'll take Lazard as a number 3 receiver all day. I'm not hating on Lazard. I'm not doing any of that. You know what I'm saying? But let's not sit and act like, oh, they good now. They got Lazard as their number 2.
No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying like you're talking like they went into this draft without addressing that position. They addressed that position. They didn't spend $50 million 2 days before the draft to go into the draft and then try to reach on this lackluster receiving group. Like that's the point I'm making. And what I'm saying is I'm not disagreeing that I'm not even disagreeing. He's gonna be the 2 on this team, the way it's gonna line out, but I'm not even disagreeing. You said 3 just now, but you said 4 or 5 minutes ago. That was egregious. But Corey Davis, and I'm glad I actually just pulled this up because as great as bummed as you tell me Allen Lazard was and what he did last year, he had 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, 780 yards, almost 800 yards and 6 touchdowns to Corey Davis for 502 touchdowns.
Uh-huh.
So even everything you just said now, as far as production and who can give me more, is out the window. 30 catches, 536 yards, and 2 touchdowns versus 786 yards and 6 touchdowns from Alan Lazard. You know what I'm saying? So even on the production side of it, Alan Lazard is an upgrade on Willie Brains, man. But I'm getting out of that.
Yeah, you better get out of there because I was about to come murder you. I was about to come murder you with the stats. I was about to come kill you because one is playing with Aaron Rodgers in MVP seasons, and the other is playing with Marcus Mariota and Ryan Tannehill. Man, don't play, bro.
No, bro, no. He was when he was playing with MVP Aaron Rodgers, he was the third or fourth receiver. Because when he played with MVP Aaron Rodgers, you know the lineup: Devontae Adams, Martez Valdez-Scantling, Randall Cobb, and Alan Lazard. Robert Tunyon had 12 touchdowns that year.
Listen.
He was the fourth or fifth option. He was the fourth or fifth option that year on those years you're talking about. So when he finally did this last year, like you're saying, get the chance to step up and have a bigger role, I'm not saying he set the world on fire, but you know what he did? He tripled Corey Davis's touchdown production and added another almost 300 yards of receiving yards. So it's still an upgrade. It's still an upgrade. Corey Davis is a bottom tier, I don't want to say bottom tier. I'm not trying to just completely bag on Corey Davis. Unfortunately,
they're in the same bracket. They're in the same bracket.
Doesn't change the temperature on any of the 32 teams he goes to. Listen, he is a journeyman 3-4 going forward just right now. His days is being anything more.
Bro, what I'm saying is they're the same in the same category. But this is what I'm gonna say. You just told me in an MVP season that Alan Lazard was behind. We know Devontae Adams. That's hands down. Valdez-Scantling and a Randall Cobb. And we ain't talking about a young Randall Cobb. We're talking about a Randall Cobb in his about 12th year who hasn't played a full season in 2015. And Rodgers just won his MVP 2 years ago. He was the fourth receiver behind those guys, and you telling me that he's a legit two. Man, get out of here.
I'm not saying he's a legit two on that team, bro. On this Jets team, he's a legit two because he's an obvious upgrade over Corey Davis, bro.
The 2 and 3 guys that were above him are what? More threes. Some other threes. It was a 1 receiver and a bunch of 3 receivers. All of them are third. Man, that's crazy. That's all. Look, bro, Corey Davis and Alan Lazard in the same bracket. You know what I'm saying? In the same bracket, whatever. Whatever you want to say. Okay. All right, Willie Jack, you got it. Give me your loser then, bro. Give me your loser. Give me your loser, bro.
Yeah, Lee. That is a terrible take.
It's a terrible take. I just told you Alan Lazard.
Terrible take, bro. Terrible take. All right, here we go.
Give me your loser then. Give me your good take.
Last loser for your boy, man, this 2023 draft. I'm going with America's team, man. I'm going with the Dallas Cowboys. I was not impressed with this Cowboys draft.
Hey, I was close to having them on mine too, but go ahead.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed with this Cowboys draft. And then honestly, the Cowboys were one of the hardest teams to mock for when I was doing my draft because of the way the board fell, like just when they were picking pick number 26, and there just really wasn't good options at 26. And so I'm not necessarily hating on the pick 26, Mozzie Smith, defensive tackle from Michigan. Now, I wasn't as high on Mozzie Smith. Mozzie Smith made my top 5 as far as tackles go, but I put him at number 5. Honestly, I like the guy we got in the second round to pick 49 and Keanu Benton from Wisconsin. I liked him more than Mozzie Smith, but I can see what they were going for as well. The Cowboys, kind of similar to what I said about the Browns, they need I was trying not to curse. They need a real one right there in the middle. I was going to say a bad M or effort. You know what I'm saying? That's what they need. They need somebody in the middle of that defense to really just to be stout and just stop letting them just get, you know what I'm saying, pierced up the middle there because all their talent on that defense is on the outside. So Michael Parsons, the Tank Lawrence, the cornerback room that we see there now, the safeties are solid. The linebacker with LVS, Leighton Vander Esch. You know what I mean? You know, when he's healthy, he's good. When he's not, he's not. You know what I mean? But the middle of that defense is where they need help. And so you go get a big athletic kind of run stuff, a guy like Mozzie Smith. My problem with Mozzie Smith was I think it's his conditioning. So he'll give you 2 snaps where he looks like he effortlessly drives a guard 6 yards back into the backfield and pushes the pocket. But what I don't like is he doesn't disengage and make plays. He just pushes the pocket before those 2 plays. Then the next 6 plays, he's 6 yards down the field off the snap because he just doesn't have no wind. He's hardly firing out his stance. And so I think a lot of it had to do with his conditioning. But it's 2 plays on, 6 plays off, 2 plays on. Like it's almost like he's catching his breath. And so, but like I said, where they are and in the league as well, especially guys on the defensive line, you actually play less snaps going into the league than in college because in college, guys like he's gonna play 90% of the snaps, or you know what I mean. They play so many more snaps, whereas in the league, there's rotations. You know what I'm saying? So he'll be in on first and second down. He doesn't even have to be in on third down now. So he's fresher, just you know what I'm saying, doing what we need him to do. So I don't necessarily hate that one. I didn't like Luke Schumacher, the tight end from Michigan, in the second round of pick 58. And so in a class that was so deep and so rich at tight end,
they could have got something better.
They could have did better, man. I really think they could have did better. Like I wasn't high on Michael Mayer. I wasn't as high on Michael Mayer, so I didn't want to see Michael Mayer at pick 26 either. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't necessarily like Schumacher, man, at 58. I think they missed the ball there. I think even DeMarvin Overshown, the linebacker from Texas, at 90. I'm not gonna lie, man. That felt a little early for him, honestly. I think he was the guy that it probably was gonna be a 5th round guy for me. You know what I'm saying? When I looked at him, but athletic guy, it took him like 3 or 4 years to kind of really even figure out how to play linebacker. He was like an athlete they just tried to find a spot for. And then he started to turn a corner this last year, but in the 3rd round at 90, man, felt a little rich. I just didn't. There's nobody on here to move the line for me. They get Deuce Vine in the 6th round, running back for Kansas State. I want to mention him because it was just a good one of those heartfelt stories, man. His dad is a scout for the Cowboys, and so when they drafted him, they had his dad make the call. You know what I mean? They had like an emotional moment there. His dad has drafted him to the, you know, to the Cowboys, the team he works for. So I can imagine he grew up as a Cowboys fan, you know, with his dad being, well, I'm assuming his dad's been in that organization for a little while. You know what I'm saying? I don't know if that's a true case or not. But anyway, going to get to play in the league and you know, work with your dad, you know what I mean, in the league. And so that's a cool story. And then as far as the player, I did see some film on him as well. He's a smaller guy. I think he's like 5'7", but super quick, super agile, and you know, quick, shifty, change of pace type of guy. But all told, man, this is the first draft for me that the Cowboys missed on. I feel like the Cowboys have had about 3, maybe even 4 years now where they've been pretty lights out in the draft. But this one, man, like I said, I wasn't impressed with this one. I just thought for a team that the Cowboys are always just kind of right there lurking. Mm-hmm. Like this is going to be the year where all the big names and all the talent that we know really push through and make a real championship style run. And I thought maybe in this draft, man, they would continue the trend they had been on. But I don't like it. I don't like any of these picks. I'm looking at these picks. I understand Mozzie Smith, and so I'm not necessarily saying it's a bad pick, but it's just like, oh, damn. Okay, it's a nice consolation pick, and I don't like any of the rest of those picks. I don't like Schumacher. I don't like Overshown right there. For Hoku, the kid out of San Jose State on the edge, I don't know if he'll really turn to a player or not, but I did see a little bit of him as well, and so I'm not mad at that pick in the 4th round, but just I wasn't a fan of any of those picks, honestly.
Gotcha. All right, Willie Jack. Yeah, they was close for me as well. Didn't quite make the list, man. I decided to go with the Jets, Rams, and the Patriots for my 3 losers. You know what I'm saying, for the reasons I discussed. You know, but there were a team that was kind of in that running. And ultimately, when they go into the season, it's going to be a team that's going to be relying on the same things they've been relying on, man. And it's what's that going to do? You know what I'm saying? Now, Tony Pollard, your boy, Free TP, he's taking over the so, you know, he'll take over that. But I don't think he was the thing that was holding his team back in the first place. I think it was more so, you know, QB play and, you know, other parts. You know, rather than some other, you know, things on this particular team. So we'll see how everything plays out with this team. But let me go to my last winner, Willie Jack. I'm going to go to my last winner. And my last winner may surprise you, Willie Jack. I think it may surprise you. Now, this is a team we talked about in the draft as being as a team that kind of surprised us, and the draft was a little bit weird. But after everything settled itself and kind of came into play, I settled on the Lions being my last winner, dog.
Hey, you want to know what's crazy?
You got them as yours too?
Lions my last winner as well, bro.
Well, let's talk about
tag team back again.
So here's the thing with the Lions, man. The Lions, when they started their draft off, we say, all right, okay, they went Gibbs with the 12th pick after trading back from the 6th spot. They went Gibbs there. We was like, okay, what's up with that? Especially with them having DeAndre Swift at the time, and then coming back with that 12th pick and going Jack Campbell, linebacker out of Iowa, you know. So those were the two ones in the first round that stood out the most. That kind of had everybody like, what's going on here? Okay. But of course, after everything played out, the picks started to make a little bit more sense for me. Okay. And here's how I broke it down, Willie Jack. With the Gibbs pick, first and foremost, I know you talked about it being maybe possibly a little rich, Willie Jack. For me, the problem was, okay, you still got DeAndre Swift in the room, and I'm still a fan. I still have faith in him. I still felt like he could be a difference maker, and he still can. But the thing was his injury history. So I'm like, why go get Gibbs and you still got Swift? But once they got rid of Swift, it was like, okay, that opened the door for a new 1-2 punch. It wasn't Jamal Williams and Swift anymore. Now it's Gibbs and Montgomery. You know what I'm saying? I wasn't too messed up about how early it was because say whatever you want to say about running backs and how you can find running backs at this time and that time. When you get a game changer, a true ball player, some guys that you feel like, oh, this is a legit guy. You know what I'm saying? I don't care how early you get him. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like Gibbs is one of those guys that can be a true game changer. What the Lions are hoping though is that they can get him at and him stay in a place where he's not as injured as Swift was. So that's the thing with Gibbs. Really like that one. And also I thought it out there to you. With his athletic ability and how game changer he can be, Willie Jack, do you feel like he's a possible to sneak in there as a blue chip player?
Jamar Gibbs.
Yeah.
Going into the draft, I mean, I'll be pretty stingy when I say like blue chip. For me, I'm thinking like, you know what? And if you know what, I'll take it back. For this draft, with as limited as I think just pure premium talent was, then yeah, maybe. So let's say right now, Jalen Carter and Bijan Robinson. Those are the guys I'm thinking in any draft. Doesn't matter what year he's getting drafted. These are guys that are going to be in the top 5 of you know what I mean, as far as players in any draft over the last 10 years. I feel good about that. You know what I'm saying? Jahmyr Gibbs is a guy where in this draft, because I don't necessarily know if I feel that way every year. You know what I'm saying? With Jahmyr Gibbs, just automatically he's the top 5 guy in the draft because he wasn't the top 5 guy for me. Now, he's the top 20 guy. You know what I'm saying? He was the top 20 guy, but that's why I was hesitant to say maybe blue chip. But kind of piggybacking on what you're saying, I like the player. Their picks was I liked the players, I didn't like the values, and so instantly when we saw the draft, I like that Jahmyr Gibbs pick. I had them going in some of the mocks I was doing. I had them going running back at 18, and then I think in the early mocks I was doing, I had Bijan Robinson going there at 18. But then it became apparent more. I see Bijan like, okay, Bijan's not getting out the top 10. Then I think I ended up putting him at number 9 to Chicago. But if you told me that they got Jahmyr Gibbs at 18, shit, that's a good pick. That's a good pick for me. So that's why it's like 12 feels a little early because it's so close to 10. He's just outside the top 10. Yeah. And that's what it's like, man, that's just a little rich. But I really do like the player. And so like the comparisons he gets from a lot of folks is Alvin Kamara, is people talk Christian McCaffrey, you know what I mean? So those are the comparisons he's getting. And he's electric. So I really do like him as a player. DeAndre Swift wasn't going to stop me from drafting any running back. If I could have got Jahmyr Gibbs or Bijan Robinson, I was taking them if I was the Lions because DeAndre Swift he wouldn't change the temperature for me at all. So I'm still making that move. The only thing that makes me a little, that I question about it is just as far as the front office for the Lions is, and I know you have to do free agency before the draft so you don't know who you're going to get, but they paid damn good money for David Montgomery. 3 years, $18 million. That's a pretty strong commitment. That's more money than Jamal Williams got to go play with the Saints. You know what I mean? So that's a pretty strong commitment. I think that's a little bit of an overpay. I just don't think that David Montgomery has shown me, man, that he's, man, a $6 million quarterback. And that's not even tremendous money. But, man, that just feels rich. Or it feels like too big of an investment. 3 years, I don't know if I want to commit to Montgomery for 3 years. And like I said, man, at that type of money. But either way, Jahmyr Gibbs, I like that pick. Jack Campbell was the one for me. And maybe I'm pretty hard on the linebackers, man, because I was hard on last year's linebackers as well. When I actually sat down and watched Jack Campbell, I was so disappointed. And this is a guy that they were rumors, there was talks that he may be available in the second round for my Steelers. Like we were maybe going to be looking at him at 49 or even 32. So, I definitely want to do my homework to look at him. But when I did the work on him, man, I am not a fan of Jack Campbell at all. Well, I shouldn't say that. We're talking value. First round pick 18, way overdrafted for me personally. But then you hear, or I'm hearing that the Bills were in on Jack Campbell if he was available. They may have went there. They were talking that they were. I think I heard some podcast person or some sports pundit say that they were even talks about them even want to move up a few places to get him if he could have gotten to the early 20s. And so his size, he's 6'5", he's 250. He ran like a high 4.5 or mid 4.5. So you would think that sounds like Tremaine Edmonds. He's not Tremaine Edmonds. He plays tentative. I don't like his. He's a finesse coverage linebacker at 6'5", 250. You know what I mean? And he doesn't play to that speed that he times. So I wasn't a fan of him as a player. But outside of him, but I get on their team why they went that way because linebacker's been a weakness on that team. So I understand for them. I love Sam Laporta. Sam Laporta for me was 2A or B. You know what I'm saying? I had Kincaid 1. I did put Darnell Washington as number 2, and then right there at 2B for me was Sam Laporta, and he's dynamic. He's a real deal difference maker. I love that pick. Brian Branch falling to 45. That could have been one of the best value picks in the draft as well. I wasn't as high on Brian Branch. Everybody kept calling him a safety. When I turned on the film, he was a slot corner, and he was a slot corner that had trouble with deep speed and got exposed anytime somebody took him up top. But getting him at pick 45, excellent value. You know what I'm saying? So I think the three picks I like, Gibbs, Laporta, and Branch, I think they trump or make it easier for me to digest the Jack Campbell pick. And then they still came right back and got Hendon Hooker in the third. You know what I mean? To sit for, he's definitely sitting this year. And then next year, I mean, we're hoping or assuming he's going to develop into a quality backup. And not only that, he may even put himself in position to supplant Jared Goff. You know what I mean? Here in 2 years or 3 years or just whatever the case. And so I really like that pick as well. And then, like I said, the rest of these guys don't really necessarily move the needle for me. But I like their first 5 picks. 4 out of their first 5 picks, I could see being A or B picks. You know what I mean? And then, like I said, Jack Campbell, I'll still take Jack Campbell on that team, but I just hate that they had to pay for him and pick 18 in the first round.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I stood, kind of where you was on this draft as well, Willie Jack. The only thing is, with the Jack Campbell pick, I did feel like it was a need. So I was like, okay, I give y'all a pass for this, especially with the draft that y'all had after him, with the players you mentioned, Sam Laporta and Hendon Hooker and Brian Branch. Those guys can all be huge difference makers for this particular team. Excuse me. This team was a team that got rid of Hawkinson in the middle of the season last year, so they was in need of a tight end. So you go get another Iowa guy, you know what I'm saying? And it seems like they like these Iowa guys.
Iowa putting in some tight ends now. Iowa's had a good little run on tight ends here.
Yeah, and they go get Sam Laporta right there, man. For sure. And so they go get Sam Laporta right after they out of Iowa. So that's they go fill that spot. And then the Brian Branch pick, man, for me, I think he can fit in very well. I think, he might not have the long speed. He might not be a traditional corner, but I think he has the discipline of just a true football player. So this is a guy that I think you can figure out a role for, and I think he can come in and play that role well. One thing he can do is he can tackle. You know what I'm saying? So he can come up and make those tackles, especially in the open field. That's something he can do very well, and I think something that a lot of teams don't necessarily have in DBs. So having a DB that can come in and tackle very well could be a great addition to your defense. And then, like you said, Hendon Hooker, man, I don't know what Jared Goff's future is going to hold. You know what I'm saying? He's had to overcome a lot of adversity over his first years in the league. Still very young. I think he's about 26, maybe 27 at the most. And I think he played very well last year. You know what I'm saying? Played very well. If he continues to play well, I think he's good. I think his spot is solidified. And I think that this team could continue to fight for actually the lead in this division. You know what I'm saying? With Aaron Rodgers moving out of this particular division and everybody usually considering them as one of the top teams in this division, it's them and the Vikings now. You know what I'm saying? And we know how inconsistent or up and down that the Vikings can be. Over the last couple of years, they've been, solid, but who knows, man? Detroit is getting a lot better. They're a lot more exciting. They bring a lot more to this, to their fans and on offense. And they could do some legit things, man. So I think they have a chance to compete, legit compete in this division and maybe even steal one on a couple. I like what Dan Campbell is doing. We both big fans of Dan Campbell, and I truly like what they did in this draft, man. So they end up being one of my winners, and of course one of yours too, Willie Jack.
No, and I agree with what you're saying, man. I think that NFC West is definitely wide open. So I mean, I think nobody expects the Packers to be the
I
Packers or
think
the
it's the North.
Bears.
I think it's the North. The North. We the Rams in the
Oh,
West.
excuse me, no, yeah, NFC North. Excuse me, yeah, thank you. So I think just like you're saying, I think they're right there in the mix to win this division. And so the Packers and the Bears, nobody's expecting them to really make a run at that NFC North title. And so it's them and the Vikings. Now the Vikings last year, a lot of that success is right in the bottom. I think they had like what three. No, I think they had like 6 one-score game victories, if I remember, and 2 of them were like in fantastic, once-in-a-lifetime type of fashion. Like that game, the catch Justin Jefferson made in that Bills game, you throw that pass 100 times, that might be the only time he catches that one. And it's not for lack of ability for Justin Jefferson. It was just it was an amazing catch, an amazing play. You know what I mean? That helped them lead to them to win that game. That's probably a loss. And they had a few of those along the way, and then they also had just some terrible, terrible losses. You know what I mean, as well. And so I would imagine that the Vikings probably regress more towards. I think what they finished last year with like 12 wins, somewhere around there. And I think probably more realistically, they're probably closer to like a 9-win team that had the ball bounced the right way for them and picked up a couple extra wins. That's no knock against them. You know what I mean? You handle your business, but I think when all the dust settles, they'll settle back to where they really probably belong, which is right in there around 9-10 wins. And at 9-10 wins, same thing. What Detroit finished last year, 8 or 9, and so they're right there in that mix. And they went out there and aggressively went and got specific guys to come in and fit a specific role so that they can make a push right now to really win that division. And then that's the thing, man. Like win your division, get a home game, and then all bets are off at that point. You know what I mean? Cincinnati reminded us of that just 2 years ago. Just get in. You know what I'm saying? Get in, get a home game. You get a favorable call at home, a la the Raiders in that no call. You know what I mean? And then that's the game and that's the play that helps propel them to a Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? And so the Lions are trying to follow that mold. We just got to win this division. We win this division, somebody's got to come here. You know what I mean? If somebody comes here and we get one, all bets are off. You know what I'm saying? So taking all that into context and then seeing what they did on the whole on those first 5 picks, we can reorder them and make them more pretty to fit the value, etc. But like I said, man, I think they really went out there and got guys that are going to day one contribute. I think all 5 of the guys, 4 of them, Hendon Hooker being a backup quarterback who's come off injury, those first 4 picks are going to play tons of minutes. Sam Laporta's a starter. Jack Campbell's a starter. Jahmyr Gibbs is a starter. Brian Branch, he may not start because they have so many guys. They're kind of heavy at that position now. But Chauncey Gardner Jr., Cam Sutton, Brian Branch, if they get creative, maybe they find ways to incorporate all of those guys. Who knows? You know what I'm saying? But they've got tons of options down that back end. So, man, when it's all said and done, man, that's a hell of a draft by those Lions.
For sure. All right, Willie Jack, we on the same page with that, man. I was surprised, especially the way that draft started off and the way we both viewed it, man.
Man, I hated that Jack Campbell pick. I couldn't stand Jack Campbell's film, man, when I looked at it. I mean, well, not couldn't stand is too strong, but, man, first I thought maybe he was just being patient in the run game. Like, nah, he's tentative. And then it went from tentative to like, man, maybe he's scared to go back. Like, I'm telling you, man, I didn't like his eyes. Like, I don't think he had good run eyes. Like, he was late to all his run fits. He was, you know, I mean, I wasn't a fan. Like, for me, Deion Henley, the guy at Washington State, I think he was my number 1 linebacker in this draft. And he's a guy, you show me a gap, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it before the running back gets there because I'm going to meet him in the hole. That's what a linebacker is. Meet him in the hole. You know what I mean? So you see the gap before you see the runner. So when you see the gap, fire your gun and go now because he's coming. You know what I'm saying? And so Jack doesn't have that. Running backs get 4 yards upfield before, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I just wasn't a fan of his run fits and his lack of tenacity, you know what I'm saying, coming downhill at all. And especially when you're 6'5", 250. When you're 6'5", 250, run 4.5, boy, you supposed to be hell on wheels. You know what I mean? And so I just didn't feel like that's what he gave me, man. So I wasn't too high on him at all. Not especially not at 18. Now you pick him in the bottom of the 2nd round, top of the 3rd round. I think that's where I felt comfortable myself. But like I said, man, I understood what they did there.
For sure. All right, Willie Jack. Well, look, man, Willie Jack, we've been going for a little minute now, man. We've been going for a little minute, and I know we had talked about some players that we wanted to mention that maybe got picked up in the later rounds that could possibly make a good impact on their prospective teams, man. So if you don't mind, Willie Jack, let's run through these really quick. That
For
way we can get
sure.
them out of here, and we at the 2 hour mark already. So if you can give me a few names, man, some teams or some guys that you felt like went later in the rounds, that you feel like could make a huge impact on their teams and surprise some people.
Man, I'm not gonna lie, man. I mentioned already the guys I was gonna talk about. DeWine Jones in the fourth for me was an absolute steal. You know what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
I mean, just
Absolutely.
and then even Keely Ringo in the fourth for the value that the Eagles got on that. You just can't beat the value of getting that guy in the fourth. Luke Whippler, the center I talked about from your Rams, I think. What did your Rams get him? Oh no. That was no, Cleveland got him as well. Cleveland got him in the seventh round.
Yeah.
A guy who, if I was just ranking centers, I did like interior offensive lineman. If I was just ranking centers, I mean he was going to be a top 3-4 center. You know what I mean? But so I like that value. The only guy I didn't talk about that, and honestly, I didn't know about this guy at all until we drafted him. But Corey Trice Jr., my Steelers got him in the seventh round, a corner from Purdue. They said he was expected to go as high as maybe the bottom of round 3, but round 4 type of guy, round 4, maybe even top round 5 type of guy. We get him in the bottom of the 7th. He's 6'3". It's like 205 pounds, runs like high 4.4. You know what I mean? He's a sideways speed specimen. And people compared his game. Honestly, his game was comparable to Joey Porter Jr., a very tall, very long press man guy, and he's got good speed, he's got good ability, and so we get him in the 7th. And then honestly, like I said, I didn't know about him at all, and then I actually saw his name on some other publications talking about he's listed as a steal on a lot of guys' publications. Then I go back and look at him, and then go back and kind of look into him like, oh man, yeah, it looks like we really did come away with a guy who. It's not too many times that your 7th round draft pick makes the team. He's the guy that probably has a good chance to not only make this team, but he sticks it out. Let's say he sticks it out, and maybe not immediately. Joey Porter Jr., he's going to start sometime this year. You know what I mean? He'll definitely be a starter going forward next year. But in 2 years, Corey Trice Jr. could be the other receiver on the other side of Joey Porter Jr. And then I'm like, we got 6'2" Joey Porter with 34-inch arms, so the longest arms in the draft at the position. And then on the other side, maybe have 6'3" Corey Trice Jr. Bro, you know the last team that had corners that size? Richard Sherman and Brandon Browner. You just don't see corners that big. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like you just don't see corners that big on the same team, right? Like man, that could be trouble now. Y'all better be careful with my skills, bro. We getting back to hit you in your mouth, football boy. I'll tell you right now, we got Joey Porter Jr. in this Corey Trice guy. The way our defense is trending, man, we looking to press, get in people's faces, and really put wood on boys, man. So I'm excited.
Yeah, and I'm excited about that too, Willie Jack. I'm excited about the Joey Porter. I wanted y'all to have Joey Porter anyway, Joey Porter Jr.
It really fit, man.
It made sense, man. I needed to have him, and he was my number 2 corner on the board as well. So I really hope that he plays well, and I want to see him. I want to see him succeed, especially in the black and gold, man, over with the Steelers, man. But my 3 guys, man, I had 3 guys that I looked at. One guy I kind of I feel like I didn't want to talk about him because he was a little bit too early. He went in the 3rd round. The Rams defensive tackle. We talked about him briefly in Kobe Turner. So he was one of the guys I felt like nobody talked too much about. The Denver Broncos safety, man. He was the 2nd safety on my board, man. J.L. Skinner, man. The Denver Broncos got him in the 5th round. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, you were behind him, yeah.
He can be a good addition to this Denver Broncos defense. The defense is already good. They got a lot of good defensive backs. They got Justin Simmons over there playing the free safety position, in which we know he's one of the better free safeties. Willie Jack, I've been high on him for a long time. A guy's a ball hog. Of course, we know what they got at the corner position. And my other dog, and Patrick Surtain, and adding J.L. Skinner, man, adds a little bit more versatility, man. He could be a tight end killer in a division that has, some better passing games that he's going to be going against week in and week out, in the division. So I think adding J.L. Skinner to that Denver Broncos defense, man, can be very valuable for them. Another guy I like, man, later in. This was a little bit different, man. In the 5th, I think it was also in the 5th round. The Cincinnati Bengals, man, they drafted a running back. They drafted a running back in Chase Brown. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Now, there was a lot of talk in terms of Joe Mixon possibly being out of there this year. Doesn't like they're going to make that move. Instead, they get rid of P. Ryan. They're going to ride Mixon out. Mixon is also getting a little bit older. You know what I'm saying? So after a little bit of time, I think they're going to be looking to go a different direction. As of right now, Chase Brown brings a different, if Mixon is bringing the pepper, man, Chase Brown can come in there and bring that salt, bring a little bit of sugar, you know what I'm saying, to that running back room. Very shifty, shows a lot of good patience. He's not a huge running back, but he shows some great qualities, man. Runs with great balance, good footwork. You know what I'm saying? Pad level is pretty good. And I think he can be, a guy that makes an impact almost immediately, when he comes into this offense with the Cincinnati Bengals, especially when spelling Joe Mixon, man. And who knows if he can put on a few extra pounds, take 18 carries a game. You know what I'm saying? Who knows? Maybe he can eventually become that guy if they decide to move on from Mixon in the next couple of years. So Chase Brown is another one of those guys. And my last guy, man, I like to throw another long shot out there at y'all. I'm gonna go with the Louisville DB, man, the corner, Keitrell Clark.
Oh, Keitrell Clark. Okay.
Keitrell Clark. I really like Keitrell Clark. Now he's not your traditional sit in your face lockdown corner. He is a guy that needs to be around the ball. He plays with a lot of tenacity. You know what I'm saying? He's fearless. In terms of what we like about Devin Witherspoon, in terms of him erasing screens and all that type of stuff, Keitrell Clark did a lot of that. You know what I'm saying? He was in the face of receivers a lot. If they came out and and defense and offenses ran screens or swing routes and stuff like that over his way, man, he wasn't afraid to stick his nose in there. So the guy had 51 tackles, his last year at Louisville. So the guy sticking his nose, he plays with a lot of passion, wears his heart on his sleeve. I really like what he brings to the table, man. So Keitrell Clark, man, is another guy that I like over there. And if they can find the right role for him, I think that he could be a guy that can make a difference. You know what I'm saying? I don't know where did Buda Baker get drafted at, Willie Jack? What spot did he get drafted?
He was in the second round out of Washington, I want to say.
Second round out of Washington. I think with Keitrell Clark, man, I'm not comparing him to Booty Baker. I see some characteristics of Buda Baker, but I'm saying if they can find the right role for him and let him kind of do what he's mostly good at, I think that he could potentially be a guy that makes a big difference on defenses, man. So Keitrell Clark, man, that's my last guy.
No, that's a good one. That's a good one.
By the way, he's in Arizona, so and Byron Murphy is gone, so he's a good guy that could take Byron Murphy's spot, man, if he comes in and plays well.
Okay, good one. Yeah, that one was off the beaten path. I do like that you shout out Chase Brown as well. I thought the Bengals, man, I keep saying this, man. I did so many damn knots. I had the Bengals taking Jamar Gibbs at 28 if he was there as well, because I thought that they were looking to move on from Joe Mixon. And the thing about Joe Mixon, man, like he's super talented, and then he's had a couple of like very high producing years for sure. But he was in the news again a month ago on some type of, I don't know if it was he pulled a gun on somebody or he threatened to pull a gun on somebody. I mean, and this is a guy who's had troubles dating all the way back. And I hate talking about guys like this. That ain't my business. You know what I'm saying? I ain't saying that. But he's a guy who's had his name in the wrong type of news from the jump. You know what I mean? So he was a 5-star guy at Oklahoma, has a bar fight, you know what I'm saying, and catches a battery or an assault battery or whatnot there. I think he was kicked off Oklahoma's team for a little bit before he had to, come back to the team, etc. So he already has a history of just poor decision making. And now it's one thing when you're young, bro. It's one thing when you're 20 years old, your first time in college. You know what I'm saying? You out in a bar. You in a bar you're probably not supposed to be in anyway. He was like 19. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing. You're like a 26, 27, like grown ass man right now, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't still be like having these type of issues. You know what I'm saying? Not coming off of like how you started, how you got to the league. And then also, man, if we really look at it, Samaje P. Ryan stole a lot of key and critical snaps from you. And so you was already kind of on the decline in your own offense anyway. You know what I mean? And so, and he's owed a lot of money. I think they could have saved like $10 million if they cut his ass this offseason. And so I definitely thought that he was getting replaced. You know what I'm saying? Like Jahmyr Gibbs is there. I really loved that fit. Thinking about Jahmyr Gibbs with Joe Beasley and them boys. You know what I mean? But of course, Gibbs doesn't make it. But definitely, I could definitely see Chase Brown. Him and his brother Sidney, twin brothers, played together at Illinois. That'd be dope. Imagine playing with your twin at the same. You know what I'm saying? That'd be dope. But very athletic guy. Like 5'10", he was like 5'10", 210. I think him and his brother both ran like the same 40 time, like low 4.4s. But I think he had a explosive runner. I want to say I think he maybe had a fumbling issue at Illinois, or so I'm trying to think about when I was looking into him for my notes. But good player as well. And I like him, like you said, man. He's a guy as well that, especially the way Joe Mixon's trending. Man, hey, look, go ahead and let Chase Brown steal 5-6 carries from your ass if you want to, and let him take one up top and then see how fast. You know what I'm saying? You be looking for another job somewhere. Joe Mixon, so boy, you better straighten up, fly right. But yeah, no, I'm not gonna lie, man. That's a good call on these guys. Chase Brown and Keytrell Clark. I didn't see that one coming at all. I didn't see Keytrell Clark coming at all. I guess a good call. Chase Brown's a good one. J.L. Skinner, I'm not gonna lie, because he went in the 5th round, and see that's what made me nervous about him because he's so big. Oh man, no, hey, we over time, man. I can't be getting into J.L. Skinner. I caught myself. You see that?
It's all good, Willie Jack, bro. It's all good. I know it's all love, bro. You just full of knowledge, man, and you just want to lace it on them, bro. That's all.
Yeah. But I get what you're saying, though. I think he was just outside my top 5. But like I said, I mean, 5th round probably is a little low. But if you told me like 4th round, I felt better. I felt good 4th round. But 5th round maybe is a tad low. But no, I get what you're saying, though. And I know he was higher on your board than he was on mine as well. So I can see how that makes sense for you.
Gotcha. Well, Willie Jack, that's it and that's all, big dog.
That's all.
We went through the winners. We went through the losers. You know what I'm saying? We went back and forth a little bit on a few different players. You know what I'm saying? We talked about some other guys, man, that we felt like could possibly, turn into some, some good players. But that's it. That's all, man. We came, we saw, we conquered, man. We appreciate everybody for joining us. Willie, it's time for you to bring us home, big dog.
Hey, for sure. Hey, hold on, man. Day one game, Jarrell got to chill. Buddha Baker, man. Buddha. I think you misheard him, man. My dog didn't call him Booty, man.
Hey, man, I ain't call that man no Booty Baker, man.
Buddha Baker.
Buddha Baker,
man. He said I called Jack Campbell, you know what I'm saying? He said I said something about Jack Campbell as well, and maybe I did. But I don't think Chop said Buddha. I think my dog Chop said Buddha.
I think Jarrell needs to get a couple Q-tips, man. I think that's what's going on, man. Get him a couple Q-tips. Man, clean them ears out, man. I ain't calling the other man no Booty Baker, man. I definitely ain't a mistake I made, for sure.
Yeah, no. I may have made a mistake, though. If I didn't say what Jarrell thought I said, I wanted to, so I may have said it. I may have said it when it was me. Yeah, I think Chop said Buddha. But hey, man. One last nugget from my dog, day one game, Jarrell, man. He said, winning the offseason turns into wins during the season. And, man, you can't argue that. You can't argue that, man. Hey, shout out to Howie Roseman, because Howie Roseman showed us. You make the right moves in the offseason, man. You can transform your team overnight. You know what I'm saying? And just like that, man. Well, maybe not overnight, but it felt like it. It felt like he made a draft day trade for AJ Brown, and that was all I needed to see. I told Chop in a preseason prediction they was going to the NFC Championship. You know what I mean? Like, I think so. Hey, it can happen. So I don't doubt it out. We said, okay, yeah. Day one game Jarrell. He said, yeah, mine was implied. Oh, it was definitely implied. I was definitely implying that. So obviously, my dog day one game Jarrell read through the lines. I was definitely implying it for sure. I was trying to stay on my best behavior, but I was definitely implying to say, you got me there for sure. But man, hey man, just like my dog said, man, that's it. That's all, man. The draft recap, man, in full effect. Shout out to the members, man. One more time, man. Day one game Jarrell in the building for sure, man. That's gang right there, man. We appreciate the love, homeboy. Man, our dog, Big Chef Gaming was in the building, man. The home team was in the building, man. Appreciate the love, man. Mom Deuce came through. Man, y'all know what's going on, man. We went a little over time, man. So, hey, I gotta cut you a little short. Damn. If I forgot to say your name, say it with me, man. Charge it to my head. Don't charge it to my heart. You know we think about you, big dog. Y'all know we love all the support, man. Y'all know we appreciate y'all to death, man. Y'all know that. It couldn't be no us without y'all. I'm lying. It wasn't us before y'all, but it's way more fun than that y'all here. These same conversations, me and Chop been having by ourselves, man. Now y'all get to have fun with us, man. So we appreciate that. Now, if you like what you saw, and I know you did, tell a friend to tell a friend, man. Y'all know what's going on. I like the three amigos, man. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Bring them over into the penthouse and kick and get down with your dogs. Just like my dog Chop said, man, earlier. Off season's here, which means the topics are going to be a lot more creative. We hope to be a lot more interactive. You know what I mean? So Man, so y'all be on the lookout for that, man. Wednesday, 7 o'clock, we ain't going to work. Because Wednesday, 7 o'clock, we ain't going to watch it because we ain't got nowhere else to be right in here, chicken flavor with our dogs. Now, other than that, man, y'all have fun. Y'all be safe. We appreciate the love and support as always, man. We gonna say that one more time. And besides that, we will be back next Wednesday at 7 o'clock. Same bad time, different bad channel. Y'all be safe. Have fun. Peace.
Peace.